Welcome to Trade Deadline Day 2026. I'm your host, Mike Poirier, and welcome aboard as we get ready to find out who are going to make the final moves as we get ready for the second half of the OHL regular season. It's been a busy stretch these last couple of days. A few big moves. Looking at the Barrie Colts making their big trade yesterday for Ben Wilmot from the London Knights. We saw David Bedkowski yesterday head off to the Ottawa 67. So who's going to move today, and what time will that first trade be? Last year, I think we had our first trade at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. So we'll see what happens this time around. We know that Kieran Walton is the player most likely to move from the Sudbury Wolves. We did hear that Ottawa, Barrie, and Windsor at one point were the three teams looking to acquire the Sudbury Wolves forward. And then last night, surprising many, the Peterborough Petes have entered the chat. So will the Petes pull the trigger, or will Kieran Walton end up staying with the Sudbury Wolves? I think from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's likely Kieran Walton will be playing for a new team by 12 o'clock today, but we'll have to wait and see what's in store. So thanks, everyone, for stopping by. We're going to be going right until 12 o'clock. We may stay on a little past 12 because sometimes we do get some trades that trickle in after the fact. But yeah, we're going to have a hangout here, talk junior hockey, and we'll see what's all in store. So the chat is live. So if you want to participate in the conversation, you can do that. Let me know where you're maybe viewing from and what team you're hoping will make a move, or if do you think your team is going to make a move today? Let me know in the chat as we're going to hang out here for a few hours. I'm also going to be taking a few breaks during the morning. This is now the third season we've done the live stream here on the channel, and before it was just 3 straight hours of me rambling and chatting and answering your questions. So today, planning to take a few breaks as this morning goes on. But yeah, we'll see what time that first trade comes in at. So the most recent trade on the board is the Barrie Colts and the London Knights. Ben Wilmot coming over to Barrie for 4 draft picks and William Moore. And it sounds as though William Moore probably won't play for the London Knights, as he's right now with Boston College. It's just sending his rights back to which they came, as the London Knights traded William Moore to the Barrie Colts 2 years ago. That was, I believe, was a 5th-round pick that went to the Knights in that deal, as the Barrie Colts were trying to convince William Moore to come on over as he was playing with the U.S. National Development Program. So we'll see we'll see how it all plays out. But it's going to be an interesting morning. I'm not sure how many trades we're going to see, but we are anticipating that Kieran Walton, right now, he's that big fish we're waiting for to find out where he goes. As we see, we got GBA saying good morning, and Delano, like to see what the Wolves get in return for Walton. It's going to be fascinating. It sounds as though Papineau has set the bar kind of high. As I understand, the Barrie Colts were in conversations with the Sudbury Wolves, and Barrie decided to pivot and trade with the London Knights. So we'll see. It sounds like they want to have at least one young player in return, so first round pick from 2025. And we'll see if that's in fact the case. We know that the Peterborough Petes are the latest team to join that conversation. So we'll see who goes the other way. I know there was some online who were suggesting maybe it's McGregor, who's drafted first overall by the Peterborough Petes. I think if the Sudbury Wolves could somehow manage McGregor, that would that be the steal of the season when it comes to trades? We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be fun just either way to see how this trade deadline comes together. There'll likely be a couple other smaller moves made. I know the Barrie Colts looking to maybe add another player. They're not done yet. The Kitchener Rangers, another team that could look to add another player. The Brantford Bulldogs, they said they're done. So we shouldn't hear anything about the Brantford Bulldogs, but maybe they'll surprise us a little bit here. And the 67s, they got a lot of picks trading Ambadovsky to the Brampton Steelhead. So Ottawa, I don't think they're done yet. They may look to add another veteran player to their lineup, especially with how they've been playing so far this season. Now we got Kevin here. Good morning from Flint. Hope the Firebirds make one more move. Hopefully a big D-man. Well, Kevin, thanks for tuning in. The Flint Firebirds, what a surprise they've been this season, and it's been great to see the Firebirds challenging the West Division, considering the favorite was the Windsor Spitfires coming to this year. And I think, yes, if they could add another defenseman here, I think that would go a long way. Kevin He, already a big pickup, Jacob Battaglia. So, yeah, I think it'd be great to see, the Flint Firebirds maybe add another defenseman. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure who they would go for at this point, but Flint Firebirds, they're going to be interesting to follow as well. And then we've got Josh McCann, the legend. Is Wilmot plus Zaveski PVR enough for Barrie to compete with Ottawa Brantford in round two in a conference final? I think for the Barrie Colts, if they could add another forward and solidify that top six, I think that is pretty comparable for at least the Ottawa 67s. And we saw that game in Ottawa where they just dominated the 67s. It was that 4-1 final. And the Barrie Colts showed in that game that they could compete with the 67s. So I really like the pickup of adding Parker Von Richter from the Brampton Steelheads. You could put him maybe with Kayshawn Aitchison. So you've got that stay-at-home defenseman who can move the puck quickly ahead. And Kayshawn Aitchison, of course, we all know what he's capable of with his offensive talent. So I think the top three in the Eastern Conference are probably set. Although we're hearing the Peterborough Petes, they want to have a shot at the top four. So it's I think the Barrie Colts have done quite a bit, but expect them to do at least one more move here today at the trade deadline. GBA, we were expecting one OA moved. That didn't happen. Still expecting one more, but have you heard anything? At this point, I know GBA, you're a fan of the Sarnia Sting. They have been very quiet. I've been actually pretty surprised by the lack of movement here at the trade deadline from the Sarnia Sting. It sounded like Mitch Young was a player being looked at that could have been shipped to another team, but it seems as though Sarnia, just the way there was an article the other day talking about how they don't really want to, change too much. They think that there's a team here that could still possibly challenge. Uh, I'm the season I did in my season previews. I was expecting the Sarnia Sting to maybe be a team in the middle of the pack, possibly making things interesting for that fourth seed. But big surprise just with how the season's played out for Sarnia, and it's been all quiet coming out of the Sting. I haven't heard that much, and I'm very surprised we're not hearing too much when it comes to the Sting. And I think their team maybe they need to do a regroup or a retool or something in the offseason because missing the playoffs 3 straight seasons in junior hockey, we don't see that often. I know Niagara, they missed the playoffs for a good stretch, also the Erie Otters, but they were able to build through the trade deadline, through the drafts, and get things back on track. But Sarnia is a very fascinating group, and I almost feel like they need to make a move, recoup some picks, get some young talent, and really get things changing here for Sarnia going forward. Brandon says, good morning. Do you think Barrie is going to make another trade today? I think for the Barrie Colts, they're going to be having conversations with teams around the OHL. Marty Williamson, he's the kind of GM that he's not going to, ignore a phone call. He's going to have conversations. Seeing Bodie Stewart shipped off to the Saginaw Spirit was a move that I think for the Colts trying to, I think, shake things up a little bit up front. Bodie Stewart, of course, when you acquire players, he's just going to move down the lineup, so he's going to get a chance with the Saginaw Spirit. And I think for Marty, he's probably going to look for, I would think, a forward if the Colts are going to add today. That'd be my guess. Sam says, I can't believe Kevin He got traded. I wasn't expecting that. It's Kevin He being shipped off this year was a little surprising, but the Niagara Ice Dogs, a fascinating bunch. And I know it's been that way for the last few years. What I felt coming into this year is that Niagara had probably one of the better top sixes in the Ontario Hockey League this year. They just needed defense because they got Yarmolenko in the import draft. And if they could have had, picked up Hoshi Wang or Jakub Kromiak earlier in the season, I don't know if they would have traded Kevin He at leading up to the trade deadline. So it's 1 point Niagara's a seller. Now they're a buyer. So I know there's been some speculation. Would Niagara trade Riley Patterson? Would they consider moving Ryan Robrick? But now that they've picked up Wang and Kromiak, I think suddenly the Niagara Ice Dogs have become buyers. So we'll see what they do. Ty Roller says, been enjoying the channel for a while now. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is our third trade deadline. And it's been fun covering the Ontario Hockey League. I know tonight the Barrie Colts are going to be on the road in Guelph. So after this live stream, I'll be getting ready to travel down to the Royal City. So it's been fun seeing this channel grow. And I appreciate everyone who's become a subscriber. The subscriber growth has blown my mind. I didn't think this channel would go too far, but here we are, and thank you very much for tuning in. JBA, the season's been a huge disappointment. It's very much due to what the new coach said. Emotionally fragile kids were cut loose some cancerous issues, but still work to do for sure. Thanks for update. No problem. Yeah, I feel for Sarnia because the Sarnia Sting, a team that made it to the Western Conference Final that one season in their franchise history, and they brought in players, Del Bell, Blues and company, and it just felt like maybe that franchise was going to turn a corner, but now back to missing the playoffs. So I really would love to see the Sarnia Sting, have a run, become buyers, build a core that could really contend, and yeah, hopefully we'll see that sooner rather than later. Blaker says, do you think if Walton was going to Pete's, they would have added picks with McGregor? It sounds like it would be picks plus McGregor, but I don't think Peterborough will. I'd be shocked if the Peterborough Petes decided to trade McGregor. That's kind of a move. If the Peterborough Petes were at the top of the Eastern Conference, then maybe make that move. Trade away McGregor because he is such a talented forward. It sounds like it could be a player like Ula that could be heading up to Sudbury instead of McGregor. But if the Petes made that move, I would be shocked. So we'll see what happens here. But still, it's I was scratching my head a little bit when I started seeing the rumors pop up online. I talked to a few people, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just as surprised too, hearing the Petes have suddenly entered the conversation for Kieran Walton." I know there was a point that they were talking to Sudbury about Nate Villeneuve. That was back in the fall. So the Petes, they've been kicking tires trying to see about adding to their core, but we'll see if that trade goes through. I do have the OHL website because as soon as we get a trade that's confirmed, we'll post it here and we can chat about it. I know there's going to be a lot of online speculation and rumors going around, but if once we get a confirmation from a team or from the OHL, then we'll announce the trade here. But right now, Kieran Walton has not yet been traded. Sounds like it could be the Peterborough Petes, but don't count out the Ottawa 67s as of yet. Sam says, so keep his brother. I think you're talking about Kevin He's brother. Leafs kid, do you think that Brantford is doing too much with all the captains they're getting? I mentioned that the other day when they picked up Gabriel Frasca. I was a little surprised by it. I understand you want to have the depth. You want to be able to, if a player goes down with injury, you don't have to worry about, who are you going to put into to that top line or the second line. So there's only one puck. And with all those players that have had so much ice time with the other teams, I'm curious to see how that chemistry is going to develop. Brantford, they're a fantastic organization right now. They're well run. McKee on the bench has been an outstanding coach, but I'm curious as to how they're going to manage that as they bring in a lot of talent. We've seen that in the past though with some teams. Think of the Windsor Spitfires when they brought in Shane Wright. They made a few, maybe a few too many moves that year, and ended up being swept by the Kitchener Rangers in the first round of the playoffs. Kitchener being the 8th seed and Windsor the number 1. I don't think that'll happen to the Brantford Bulldogs, but that's kind of got to be in the back of your mind with all these moves that the Brantford Bulldogs have been doing. You don't want to do too much and disrupt the chemistry because this team, leading up to the World Juniors, they were a wagon. They were dominating. It was 23 games before they suffered their first regulation loss. So hopefully the chemistry is not going to be thrown too much off here. But I do, Spencer Hyman, he's been a bold general manager, and if this all pays off, I wouldn't be surprised if he's named general manager of the year. And Blaker says, been here all 3 years in this live. Well, Blake, yeah, I remember you tuning in that first one there, Blaker, because I think we've had a lot of Sudbury Wolves conversations at the OHL trade deadline. And last year it was, would Quentin Musty be traded? And of course, he stayed with Sudbury, and then they made that big move for Henry Muse. So it's been fascinating just to see what Sudbury's been up to these last few seasons. And they're not done yet. We're going to be talking more about the Sudbury Wolves here today. So Sam says, so keep his Kevin He brother. Sure. Um, Delano is saying Wolves trade picks with Kingston. I haven't seen that one yet, but wouldn't be surprised if we do see moves such as that. As we did see the Kingston Frontenacs and Brantford Bulldogs, they exchanged picks the other day, and that was for Spencer Hyman saying that they wanted a second round pick in 2026. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see moves such as that. But right now, All quiet on the front, but usually it is quiet that first hour here, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I think it was last year. We didn't get a trade until about 10:30, 11 o'clock, but last year's trade deadline was pretty light. It was the OA trade deadline day where it was trade after trade after trade, and I felt like maybe we should have done the live stream on the OA trade deadline day, but we haven't learned our lesson yet. We're doing the live stream again here on trade deadline day. Um, Blaker says, like the Byfield jersey. Well, I've got my Byfield. That's my Carolina Taylor Hall. And then my Jeff Skinner, which I just got for the San Jose Sharks. I know that they're kind of weird, but I collect OHL player jerseys from the National Hockey League. So for Taylor Hall, I think it's 7 jerseys now of his. So Edmonton, New Jersey, Arizona, Buffalo, Boston, Chicago, Carolina. So that's the latest Taylor Hall one. So I thought I would put that one up. Sam says Hoshi Wang is a tall dude. San Jose Sharks got picked. For Wang, he really stood out to me when the Oshawa Generals signed him last year. It was at the trade deadline, and he towers among some of the defensemen. So for Wang, we'll see how he transitions to the Niagara Ice Dogs. I know there's been some issues there with his turnovers and whatnot, but he does have that size. Last year he looked pretty lanky, but he's looks like he's filling in for his height, and yeah, he's going to be a beast there on the blue line, and we'll see how it shapes up because those San Jose Sharks, so many prospects, and it's nice to see a lot of OHLers, especially on that San Jose Sharks team. Media OHL says, "Hi Mike, just wanted to pop in for a sec to say keep the great videos." Well, thank you very much, Media OHL. I missed Blaker's comment. Still remember Byfield getting out of the penalty box and scoring on breakaway and shushing the crowd. And that was here in Barrie that he did that too. That thinking back to those teams for the Sudbury Wolves, it's really too bad how the pandemic just derailed the seasons there for the Sudbury Wolves. Because that's another team. I was talking about the Sarnia Sting earlier and how I'd like to see that team have some success. But Sudbury, they were so close. You had the Byfield there up front. You had Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in net. That team looked like a team that could finally, get over that hump, win the Eastern Conference championship for the first time since 2007. But of course, we know what all happened there with the season being wiped out. But yeah, those Quinton Byfield years in Sudbury, definitely a lot of fun and just adds to the Barrie Sudbury rivalry. Cheryl says, coming late and don't really know about all the trades that have been done, but what is the one so far that has taken you by surprise? There's been a few moves that have been a little surprising. I think the big one being the Niagara Ice Dogs, who looked like they were sellers at one point, trading away Kevin He, and then turning around and picking up Jakub Kromiak and Hoshi Wang from the Oshawa Generals. I think that's been one of the bigger surprises so far. But that's the whole thing about the trade deadline. Sometimes you just never know what's going to take place. But yeah, I think the Niagara Ice Dogs flip of the switch from sellers to buyers, maybe the biggest surprise so far here at this OHL trade deadline is we are, yeah, we still have just over 2.5 hours to go. So we'll wait and see what happens as we go along here. But it's been a fascinating run. Also with, I think another interesting decision was the Owen Sound attack. We heard that, Carter George traded to Sault Ste. Marie. We kind of heard those rumors. There's a lot of that speculation about Carter George going there. But then the article coming out of the Owen Sound Sun-Times from Dale DeGray basically saying he wanted to keep Carter George. So he, going into the Christmas break when George was with Team Canada at the World Juniors, decided that he wanted to see George finish his career as a member of the Owen Sound attack. But what happened is George put in a request for a trade. He was exploring options with Boston College and kind of forced Dale DeGray's hand to trade Carter George. Ended up going to the Sioux Greyhounds. Sounds like before that decision was made, the attack were going to trade a goaltender to the Erie Otters, but he didn't want to be left with just one goaltender if George decided to go off the NCAA route, as it seems as though there's a new kind of loophole that's developing here because we thought as soon as a player signed that entry level contract with the NHL club that they were no longer eligible for the NCAA. It sounds like that could be changing. So I think over the next few months, going into the offseason, that's probably going to be something to keep an eye on. I know we've had so many questions about what does it mean to NCAA, and it keeps evolving as we go along. And right now, that Carter George situation has kind of shifted things a little bit more. As something's going to have to be done with the Canadian Hockey League and the NCAA trying to figure out a way for the two programs to kind of coexist, work together, and like obviously you want the players to have more options, and that's exactly what this NCAA thing does. But it gives a lot of uncertainty to GMs. They try and plan, how is this going to look for their team in the next season, for 2 years from now? Because it's everything just keeps evolving when it comes to the NCAA situation. Randman, thank you for keeping us OHL fans up to date. No problem. Well, thanks for tuning in and with your support. Because if people weren't watching these videos, I wouldn't probably be making them. So thank you very much for all your support. Bob Sharkey. Hey, Mike, do you think the Gens will trade Owen Griffin? From what I've heard, there hasn't been any talk about Owen Griffin moving out. I want to say last year there was some speculation that Griffin may have been an option to be traded out, but ended up staying with the Oshawa Generals. I think if the Oshawa Generals, they're a team looking to next year. If they were to trade Griffin with the way the trade market has been, they would they'd be able to get probably a young prospect back and draft picks because Griffin was outstanding in the playoffs last year for the Oshawa Generals. But from what I'm hearing, I haven't heard Owen Griffin as being a possibility being traded, but you just never know. With the trade deadline, could really anything can happen between now and 12 o'clock. Josh McCann, I wonder what Owen Sound does today after grabbing Brown from London. I really like that pickup for the Owen Sound attack. Julian Brown, he's a very physical defenseman. He's a battler. He's going to throw those big checks. And when you're playing at the Bayshore, and he's an intimidating defenseman, and I really like that pickup for the attack. It's I think this is a way for Owen Sound to continue to be a playoff team. Uh, they already traded away Bedkowski, so Brown kind of takes that position. It doesn't sound like Tristan DeLille is going to be traded, so for the attack, I don't think there's going to be any other moves taking place, but things could definitely change from here. But I do like that pickup for Owen Sound bringing in Brown. But isn't it weird this year seeing London being a seller? Like I'm still getting used to seeing the London Knights trading away players for picks and prospects. It's a strange time we're living in right now. Uh, what can you tell me about Brandon Wang? I'm not really too. There's Matthew Wang who's traded to the Oshawa Generals. We'll have to wait and see. I'd have to look that up. Nick Sheriff says, rumor is Kieran Walton for Jenk, Eula, and picks. Wolves winning the ship in the new arena. You heard it here first. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I'm still waiting for confirmation about that Kieran Walton trade, but yes, the rumors are going around that it is Kieran Walton going to the Petes, although I still wouldn't count out the Ottawa 67s. They picked up those picks from the Brampton Steelheads in that Nathan Amidovsky trade. They could flip some of those picks the other way because they did those two quick trades. They acquired Bedkowski with, 5 picks going back to the Owen Sound attack, but none of those picks were the ones that came in from the Brampton Steelheads. So the 67s, I think, are still in a position that they could look to try and acquire Kieran Walton. From what I was talking to somebody about the whole Kieran Walton situation, and they said that the Wolves would like to send him to the Western Conference. We'll see if that plays out. But when it comes to the West, does Windsor have enough to still try to acquire Walton after picking up Villeneuve and Ferrand? But the Petes were the late addition to the conversation. That happened last night. I know a lot of I'm starting to pay attention to the roster last night before the Petes game against Oshawa to see if there's any lineup adjustments. But that is the main trade we're following here today is where does Kieran Walton go? And will it be, I think it's come down to Peterborough or Ottawa at this point, but We're just waiting for confirmation on that front. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some movement closer to 10 o'clock will be when we start to see some trade announcements. Actually, now seeing the trade mentioned from earlier, the Sudbury Wolves. Here, I made a fancy graphic. Let's bring up that graphic. We got a breaking trade to announce. It's not the Kieran Walton trade, but the Sudbury Wolves have acquired from Kingston a fourth round pick in 2027, and the Kingston Frontenacs are getting Windsor's fifth round pick in 2028. So we've got our first trade, guys. And I got to use my breaking trade graphic. So that's the thing. This is now 3 years of doing this live stream. And this year I was like, how can we make it a little fancier? And I was like, let's add some graphics. So there you go. We got to see the new graphic. So that's our first trade. So the Sudbury Wolves, they get a fourth round pick in 2027 from Kingston. And the Frontenacs, they receive Sudbury's fifth round pick in 2028. So there you go. We got our first confirmed trade. Kyle says, do you think Owen Sound moves Jake Crawford? I think anything is possible at this point. If Jake Crawford is available, I'm sure there's a few teams that would line up. The Kitchener Rangers, I think, would probably explore the idea of adding a guy like Crawford. The Barrie Colts, maybe they could be a team interested in Crawford. I haven't heard anything yet about Crawford, but he has been a player that I've really, every time we see the Owen Sound attack, he's a player that really stands out. Nick Sheriff says, I want Chitteroni and picks for Walton. And I think that's what it comes down to. It sounds like Ottawa doesn't really want to give up Hudson Chitteroni, and I don't blame him. Chitteroni is going to be a fantastic player here in the OHL. And if that's what's holding it up, then maybe that's where a team like the Peterborough Petes can come in and make that trade. Kyle asking, and is Barrie still in on Walton? My understanding from what I was told is that what the Barrie Colts gave up to the London Knights is what they were offering to Sudbury, and they ended up going for Ben Wilmot instead of Kieran Walton. It doesn't mean, I guess, the Colts could still have conversations with the Sudbury Wolves, but my understanding is they pivoted to the London Knights and getting Ben Wilmot instead of Kieran Walton. So I don't think we'll see Walton coming to Barrie because the asking price is pretty high for Kieran Walton. But, if trades fall through Peterborough and Ottawa, then I guess there's that off chance that Barrie could swoop in. Wild Skateboarder. Hey, Mike, love your channel. Do you think Guelph made a bad choice not trading Miedema? I think it's okay to keep Miedema because for the Guelph Storm, they're a team I think that they're focused on making the playoffs this year still. They want to have some good experience for the younger players on this team. So you stay above that playoff line, you make the postseason, and then see where things go from there. I've been hearing that they're still looking to maybe sell off a player or two. We'll see if that does happen here, but I'm not really surprised too much because Miedema is a great leader both on and off the ice. He was fantastic with Kingston last year. He's got that playoff pedigree, so I'm not too surprised that the Guelph Storm held on to Miedema. He's a great veteran leader, and we'll see what's in store here for Guelph today. I think that's a team that's still looking to make some trades for next season when they host the Memorial Cup, but at the same time, they want to have a team that could get some valuable experience here in the postseason. Although the Western Conference, the playoffs is going to be tough when you've got that top four of Windsor, Flint, Kitchener, and Sault Ste. Marie battling it out. Delano says they pulled Eula prior to game start. Yes, I saw that, and that's where kind of everything's kind of snowballing here and really focusing that I think Kieran Walton could be heading to the Peterborough Petes, but we're just waiting for that confirmation at this point, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here as I'm just refreshing my pages and seeing if anything comes up. But it's going to be Kieran Walton will be traded today. We'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out. Wild Skateboarder. I do wonder Windsor would make sense because who knows? Villeneuve, Ferran, and Walton could be like what Barrie did with Van Steensel, Wakely, and Romani. And then, of course, Walton's brother plays for the Windsor Spitfires. You'd be reuniting the Walton brothers. So I think Windsor is a good fit for Kieran Walton. It's just you have to figure McLaughlin would be a player that the Wolves would want in return. So it comes down to, do the Spitfires want to give up their first round pick from the 2025 OHL priority selections? I think that's the big thing that would have to go the other way. Nick says, well, we'll take a Ashkokogan too. No worries. Kone Shkokagan, what a great defenseman there on that blue line for the 67s. I think any team would like to have him on their squad. And for the Ottawa 67s with Dave Cameron as head coach, he preaches defense first. And Shkokagan just fits that mold of a Dave Cameron coach team. So yeah, I think if you're the Sudbury Wolves, you would love to have Shkokagan, but it'd be hard, I think, for the 67s to give him up, as he's a great defenseman on that team. No escape. I wouldn't give up Cheateroni for Walton. Amidovsky could have been a good option, but they moved him for picks to Brampton. And I think for the 67s, yes, they gave up Amidovsky. He's a good player, but I think their focus is on Cheateroni, because if you look at that roster, the 67s are ahead of schedule. This is a team I think that could be very strong next season. So we could be looking at back-to-back years where the Ottawa 67s are competing for top spot. And it's fascinating with junior hockey because last year our focus at the trade deadline was Ottawa as a seller, selling Henry Muse and Pinelli. That was our main focus. We had all the rumors about the Brantford Bulldogs trying to acquire him. The Oshawa Generals were trying to pick him up, but then Sudbury swoops in and takes Henry Muse. So it's crazy how fast things can change in junior hockey, where Ottawa's at the bottom last year and now this year looking to be serious buyers. And also with Sam McHugh, we're waiting to find out about his shoulder and getting him healthy again, because he's going to be a key contributor for that team in this final stretch. So we're going to have to wait and see. And I think that's kind of where I'm wondering with that Amidovsky trade yesterday, if those picks could then be flipped to Sudbury if they're still in it. It could be a bidding war between the two East Division rivals, between Ottawa and Peterborough right now. So I'm just looking at, because I just want to make sure there is the trade that we can get it posted here. But yeah, nothing as of yet. So just the one trade so far this morning, and that was for picks between Sudbury and Kingston. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays up. And then Nick says the Ula brother plays here too. 4 games so far, committed to Vermont in 28-29. Yes, I forgot about that until I started, looking at the rosters. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the other Ula there. So yeah, that's it'd be good for those two to be reunited. Delano, LOL, Santa's wish list, right? JBA, we traded Ryan Brown for Howery, but he's been scratched since the trade. He played once. Any word on if he's going NCAA or refusing to report? For Howery, I haven't heard either way. I know that when he was drafted, he had a preference to play for the London Knights. So it's I haven't. It's been kind of quiet. Anything that comes out of Sarnia has been kind of um, hit and miss with the information that comes out. But for Howery, he did play that one game, so maybe just give it time. Maybe it's injury related or illness. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But yeah, haven't heard anything specifically. Wild skateboarder. Away from the deadline, do you think it's a bad look for McHugh to initially not report to Flint and then request out of Flint? And got what he wanted and then requested out of Brantford. Uh, but with the Ontario Hockey League, you're dealing with a lot of teenagers, because it is kind of tough when you're in a position where, for McHugh in particular, going to the Flint Firebirds, that was a team that at the time they weren't looking to be contenders, because for Owen Sound they wanted Zarowski. Flint at that point was just flipping a lot of players. The last 2 trade deadlines, the Firebirds have been a team where they would sell and then buy, and it was just kind of a mixed bag, kind of like what we're seeing with the Niagara Ice Dogs this year. So for McHugh, who's been bouncing around quite a bit, it could have been a position where he didn't really want to trade, move once again. But yeah, now because he started with Peterborough, ended up with Owen Sound, Flint, Brantford, now Ottawa. So that's 5 teams for Sam McHugh. He's been bouncing around, but it's The players that they get a say if you offer them the no trade clause, or they can make a decision if they want to refuse to report certain teams. And it's just been the nature of the game, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. Nolan Jackson health as well as McHugh is going to be important. If Jackson is healthy soon, Ottawa might move out at D since they added Bedkowski, or I guess Ryan White shifts to a forward role. But it's always good to have that extra depth because if you've got some players that are coming back that are healthy, it's going to take Jackson time to get back up to game shape. But it is for the 67s, getting that depth is going to be huge, and we'll see how it all plays out. And it's going to be interesting if Ottawa can hold off the Brantford Bulldogs. That loss last night in North Bay hurt them because now Brantford 2 points back with that game in hand. So there's a good possibility Brantford could take over top spot in the Eastern Conference. But right now it looks like Barrie should win the Central Division. So if you're Ottawa, if you fall to the second spot in your division, you're likely playing the Barrie Colts in the second round if all four teams win in that opening matchup. So you got to think about how does our roster compare to a team like the Barrie Colts? Because we saw Barrie won 4-1 up in Ottawa back in December. So they're trying to shift pieces here. They want to get bigger. You want that depth because it's going to be a grind come playoff time. So for Nolan Jackson, if he can get back in the lineup, that's going to be big for Ottawa and just adds to that depth as they get ready for a postseason push. Bob Sharkey. Mike, do you think the Petes will do anything today? Kind of surprised they haven't as of yet, unless I missed something. Well, we're all still waiting to see if Kieran Walton ends up going to the Peterborough Petes. That's been the speculation for the last 12 hours, last 15 hours. It was a sudden shift because the talk was Ottawa, Barrie, Windsor, and then Barrie picked up Ben Wilmot from the London Knights. And then it was, okay, is it going to be Ottawa or Windsor? And then Peterborough joined the conversation. So the Petes could make some noise here today. They did make the trade with the Erie Otters, bringing in Brett Hammond and Garrett Fraser to give some size to that lineup. I With this Peterborough Petes team, they want to finish fourth. If they could catch the Ottawa 67s or Brantford Bulldogs, that would be huge. But right now, I think for Peterborough, trying to secure a top four spot, you get home ice advantage in the first round. We'll see if Kieran Walton is going to be that extra piece coming their way, but keep an eye on the Petes. We'll see what happens there. As it's great to see Peterborough back in contention because they missed the playoffs last 2 years since winning the OHL championship. It's a traditional market. The PMC, awesome place to visit. And, it's great to have playoff hockey in the Live Lock City. So it's great to see that they're entered the conversation as a buyer, although I think a lot of us are surprised that they're the team right now that seems to be the front runner when it comes to Kieran Walton. Sam says, thank you, OHL and WHL Talk, trying to find hockey podcast. Who will win this year? For this season, I think Brantford still has to be considered the favorite. If you're trying to pick a team from each conference right now with the way the rosters look, I would say Brantford is the favorite for the Eastern Conference. And in the West, I really like what the Kitchener Rangers have done, bringing in O'Reilly and Woolley. They've got the size, but it is not going to be easy. The Flint Firebirds, they're going to be a tough out. The Sioux Greyhounds will be a tough out. The Windsor Spitfires as well. They've gotten bigger and stronger. So it's very even between those four teams, but I kind of give the edge to Kitchener just with that experience they bring. Plus, Matt Andonovski being back is a huge push here for the Kitchener Rangers. But battle between Brantford, Kitchener, I kind of want to lean towards Brantford just with that depth. But as long as that chemistry works, I think that's going to be the big thing. You brought all these players in who've been leaders on their respective teams, and now they have to come together. Look at Team Canada at the World Juniors. You bring all that talent together, and you run into a team like Czechia, and it derails the tournament. So for the Brantford Bulldogs, is that going to be a similar situation here? You bring all this talent in. Can they get that chemistry to work to get them over the edge to get that victory? So I think it's Brantford Kitchener. I almost want to get Brantford the edge. JBA, I still think Windsor is the team to beat. And you know what? I think Windsor could be a team that could make it. I think it's really close right now between Kitchener, Windsor, Flint, and Sioux. Kitchener, Windsor, I think, are probably the top two teams, and then Flint and Sault Ste. Marie are right there. But in a 7-game series, uh, you got Carter George in net for the Sioux Greyhounds. He could get hot. He could steal a series. Mason Vicari has been solid in net for this season for the Flint Firebirds. Costanzo, he's set the record now for wins for the Windsor Spitfires organization. And then Kirsch for the Kitchener Rangers. That could be the spot where for Kitchener maybe they should have gotten another goaltender. Schabel's a good goaltender. I'm not, saying anything bad about him, but that goaltending depth, I wonder if that's an area that maybe the Kitchener Rangers could have focused on here at the OHL trade deadline. But we're still waiting to see if we get any more moves. Like I said, just the one trade so far this morning that's been made official. But that's one more trade than I think we had last year. I think at this point we still were sitting at no trades. So at least we got movement here at the trade deadline. Zachary says, take care of Zabeski for us. Mason Zabeski, I'm pretty excited to see what Zabeski and Von Richter bring to the Barrie Colts here because we've seen the Steelheads, quite often here because they're Central Division rivals. But yeah, Zabeski, I'm curious to see how he's going to fit in. That top six for the Barrie Colts is going to be pretty solid in the second half. Although I think the Colts, they're still working the phones. It sounds like they're willing to add another piece to the puzzle, but Zabeski, a key piece, the former captain there of the Brampton Steelheads. Cheryl says, not sure if you've mentioned this before, but can you talk about what kind of footprint Mr. Branch leaves on the OHL? Well, David Branch, his passing, quite shocking. He just retired back in 2024. I did that whole OHL history series, looking back to the formation of the OHL. And the key piece was the fact that David Branch, he was the one that really shaped the league to what it is today. If it wasn't for Branch, his involvement becoming the first commissioner of the OHL, we wouldn't have the league as it is here today. His focus has always been growing the game and growing the spotlight. So he's done a fantastic job. And maybe the one point with the expansion of adding Mississauga, Brampton at the same time may have been a bit of a hiccup. But you have to give Branch credit for trying to grow the game and grow the footprint of the Ontario Hockey League. So we wouldn't have the OHL like it is today if it wasn't for David Branch, and even just seeing the media coverage of how it's grown to cover this fantastic junior hockey circuit. No escape. Wild skateboarder, I'd agree. Brantford has made so many ads. It's clear they have their eyes on the Memorial Cup. Anything less would be a disappointment. That is so true. But yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how it all plays out. That Brantford team, it's gonna take I think a few games for them to get things going. But the Brantford Bulldogs, they're gonna be a solid group. Josh Lovely says some of these teams that have added heavily could come down to who integrates the new players into the systems best. And that's a great point there, Josh, because we've seen that in the past where some teams they'll add and then just the chemistry's off and things don't work out. I talked about it earlier, the Windsor Spitfires, when they brought in Shane Wright and Harrison and did all these big moves, but it kind of got disjointed, and the Kitchener Rangers swept Windsor in the first round that season when they were the number one seed. So I'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. And then Wild Skateboarder, as an Ice Dogs fan, Costanzo is still a trade that hurts fans, and in my opinion, one of the biggest mistakes of the new ownership. Especially considering they traded him to go back and forth with Flores and Rosenzweig, and then we all know what happened with Rosenzweig getting kicked out of the league. It's the Niagara Ice Dogs have been such a fascinating storyline. Just the stuff going on off the ice with the ownership changes, the league fines, the league investigations, and then all the trades. It's just they haven't been able to get that chemistry. And for Costanzo, when he started there with the Niagara Ice Dogs, there's a lot of promise there, and then it just seemed as though it was just a quick move, sent him to Windsor, and now he's the record holder for the most wins in franchise history. And it's I see. I started covering the Ontario Hockey League when I was a student at Niagara College, so I went to that first season with the Ice Dogs, and that fan base is so strong. Like there's so much passion in Niagara for the Ice Dogs, and it's just I would love to see that team gets some consistency. And, I don't want to knock on ownership, but it does since that change, there's been too many trades. Like you don't get that chemistry. You don't, you know, there's no consistency. And it's also got to be hard for the fans because, already in junior hockey, players are only around for so long. Some players are there for 5 years, 4 years, whatever, but it's hard to then get an attachment to anybody if players are just coming in and out, if it's a revolving door of talent. So it would be great to see some consistency. I think Frank Ivola, has made some good moves to help this team get in the right direction, but we're still seeing that revolving door, which I think makes it really tough for an organization. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm going to take a quick break because I need to have some water. It's been 45 minutes of the live stream, but stay tuned. We will continue with the trade chat, but I'm just going to take a bit of a breather. So if you have any other questions or if there's any predictions you want to make, you can put that in the chat and we'll continue as it's the 2026 OHL trade deadline. And yeah, we're just over 2 hours away from the deadline here. All right, so I got my water. I got everything set up here. Still waiting for some more trades, and hopefully you've got your coffee and maybe relaxing a little bit here as we get this trade deadline morning continuing. It's now 9:49, so 2 hours and 11 minutes to go until the OHL trade deadline. So far, just one trade today. If you're just tuning in, that was the Sudbury Wolves acquiring a fifth-round pick from the Kingston Frontenacs for a seventh-round pick. So you haven't missed too much if you're just getting up and started. And I just want to thank everyone who's been taking part in our conversations already. Is we still we're going to go right past 12 o'clock. So we'll see everything that happens. We are anticipating a few moves still to take place. The big name, of course, Kieran Walton of the Sudbury Wolves. He's a Winnipeg Jets prospect. He's expected to move today. It's just where will he go? It's been an interesting ride so far. At one point, we thought it'd be Ottawa, Barrie, or Windsor. Now it sounds like it's between Ottawa and Peterborough. So we'll wait and see what happens at this point. So uh, we'll continue along here if you want to join in the conversations. We've had some great chats already here on the channel. And the last comment was from JBA Built. Do you think he was traded due in part to the team issues they had last year? Could you explain why they look like sellers and then buyers? I That's a great question about Kevin He because he was the captain of the Niagara Ice Dogs, especially with, you know, it was a team function that happened going into the playoffs last year, which resulted in, if you remember, in the playoffs, every player having to miss at least one period during game 2 of the first round playoffs against the Barrie Colts. And, when the coaching staff was moved out at the end of the last season, they changed the management. The Ontario Hockey League was involved in some investigations. This team wanted to change, the culture in the room, and that's kind of why we saw a lot of trades at the beginning of the offseason. Grayson Tiller brought in from the Barrie Colts. He's a great character guy. We saw players being shipped out to other parts of the Ontario Hockey League. But for Kevin He specifically, uh, to my understanding, uh, the trade out wasn't because of that. Obviously, the optics may suggest otherwise. I know Brady Wasslin, he was another player that was traded out. It sounds like that was, a request out is what it sounds like. But yeah, for Kevin He specifically, I don't think it has to do exactly with it, but we only know so much. Only so much information is going to come out. And then there's been so many stories that come out of the Niagara Ice Dogs. It's like, okay, is that actually factual? Because there's usually a lot of rumors that come up. I've heard different stories involving the Niagara Ice Dogs, and I'm not going to share it here on the channel because I don't know if it's legit. But we did hear that one article about a situation that happened in the movie theater, and that's why they had every player suspended during the playoffs. So uh, I think there has to be some questions, maybe with Kevin He's leadership because he was the captain of the team at the time. But for Niagara, they ended up selling off Kevin He. We all thought at that point, okay, this is the signal that, okay, Niagara is looking to the future. So then we started hearing stuff about, was Riley Patterson on the move? What about Ryan Robrick? And then for Niagara decides to come around and pick up Jakob Chromiak, an overage import defenseman from the Kitchener Rangers. They gave up a second and a third. So then it's like, okay, is Niagara switching? Are they becoming buyers? And then they're bringing Hoshi Wang from the Oshawa General. So that's where it went from Niagara was a seller to now a buyer. We'll have to wait and see what happens next with the Niagara Ice Dogs. We haven't seen any trades yet from them today. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of movement involving Niagara because they're always making trades. Tay, was it surprising to you how much London sold? It's a little surprising because we're not used to seeing the London Knights as a seller. What really stands out to me, though, is a lot of the players that they've traded away were players they signed as free agents during the offseason. So great asset management here by the London Knights. So Ben Wilmot, a free agent signing, he's from Seattle. He's now off to the Barrie Colts. They get a good haul back for him. Julian Brown being traded away. They get some good assets in return for him. And then, of course, trading with your division rival, probably the most heated rivalry right now in the Ontario Hockey League, London and Kitchener. It still seems really strange seeing those two teams make such a big move. So, yeah, I think seeing London sell is surprising enough, and seeing them trade with the Kitchener Rangers, especially at this magnitude, is quite surprising. And the last time I think the two teams made a trade this big, you'd have to go back to the 2007 2008 season when Steve Mason was traded to the Kitchener Rangers as Kitchener was the host of the Memorial Cup in 2008. And then the offseason, the second part of that deal was Nazem Kadri going to the London Knights. So that's those two teams, they don't trade often, and it's just I think that's the biggest surprise for me is seeing Kitchener and London doing such a big swap, and it's really going to help the Kitchener Rangers here. I think that's why Kitchener is probably I would give them the slight edge in the Western Conference, but yeah, I think that's probably the big surprise there, Tay. Dylan Meyer, good morning, Mike. Well, good morning, Dylan. Great to see you here on the chat. Wild skateboarder, do you think Wasselin backs out of his NCAA commitment and plays for London next year? I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks with the London Knights. And if that's the case, that's going to make that trade, I think, harder for Niagara Ice Dog fans because Noah Reid, yes, he's an NHL prospect drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. He's not that goal scorer that you're going to expect like Brady Wasselin. So I think Wasselin does come back next year. And that's why when that trade happened, I did that video talking about it, and I was quite surprised there were no conditional picks. As that should have been, or I would have thought that would have been important here for Niagara to make sure, okay, if he comes back next year, we want to guarantee that we get a third or a second round pick. So that's the thing that really stood out to me with that deal because I think there is a strong possibility that Brady Wasselin is back for the London Knights next year. Josh says, seeing O'Reilly and Woolley in blue, red, and white tonight, it's going to be something. Hope they integrate well, even though they are the former bad guys. It's yeah, it's going to be so strange, and I think they're gonna do great with the Kitchener Rangers. They are professional athletes. They've got that championship pedigree, and yeah, seeing them in different colors is going to be weird. Even O'Reilly said that when he was at the Odd playing for Team Canada in that exhibition game. He said it was really strange hearing the fans in Kitchener cheer him on, and it's going to be even more strange, I think, as it's going to be on a regular basis. But man, oh man, the Odd is going to be electric going forward here in the second half. And for the Kitchener Rangers, a team that hasn't been in the OHL final since 2008, it's long overdue seeing some success there with the Kitchener Rangers. They've been close. They've had a couple of Western Conference final appearances. The most latest was against the Sioux Greyhounds, but it would be great to see for Kitchener to maybe take a run there to the final. Dylan says, do you think the Colts are done trading? I don't think so. I think they're still working the phones. They made that move there yesterday for Ben Wilmot. They brought in Zveski and Von Richter. I think they look to add another forward, would be my best guess. Maybe add a top six, maybe a winger. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts make another move today. It wouldn't surprise me. But if they don't make a trade today, I think the lineup that they have is going to be solid. Is it deep enough to contend with the Brantford Bulldogs? That's going to be a big question. I would probably give Barrie the edge with goaltending. Ben Hrebeck has been sensational. So for Barrie, if you can get the goaltender hot, who knows? The Barrie Colts could maybe do an upset or two in the Eastern Conference playoffs, but I think it would be good if the Barrie Colts could add another forward up front. Anne Marie says, good morning, Mike. Good morning, Anne Marie. Hopefully your day's off to a good start. I know it's not snowing today here in Barrie at least, so that's a good day. It's going to be mild. I know it's going to be rainy. We'll see how the drive is down to Guelph later today as the Colts visit the Guelph Storm. We'll be doing that broadcast, and we'll have the radio broadcast of it here on the channel later today. So we've got the trade deadline live stream this morning, and then we'll have the radio broadcast for the Barrie Colts later tonight. Wild Skateboarder. No, he hasn't. A group of fans I'm in has said Reid has been a disappointment so far, and we were not happy with that being a one-for-one trade. Yeah, and I feel bad for Noah Reid, the pressure that he must be feeling, because remember when that trade happened, the Ice Dogs were really promoting the fact that he's a local kid. He's from St. Catharines. He's a draft pick from the Anaheim Ducks. Like he is a talented individual, but when you compare it one for one with Brady Wasselin, that's pretty tough. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. And yeah, if Wasselin comes back next year, that's gonna be tough. Dylan, Walton from Sudbury would be nice. Well, we'll have to wait and see what transpires on that because we are waiting for a Kieran Walton trade. I don't think he ends up with the Barrie Colts. Barrie shifted their focus to Ben Wilmot, but I'm sure for the Barrie Colts, they would love to get Kieran Walton, but we'll have to wait and see on that front because, of course, Kieran Walton tied with Nathan Aspinall in points for the league lead. That'd be huge. I know there's been a knock on Kieran Walton's defensive game, but there's no denying he's got a nose for the net. He's offensively gifted, and I'm sure if the Barrie Colts can find a way to get him to come here, then I'm sure they would jump on it. So right now, just refreshing, just making sure nothing's been posted. Still waiting for some trades to be announced. We are at 10 o'clock, so 2 hours to go until the OHL trade deadline. This is usually the time where we start to see some movement. We do have the one trade so far between Sudbury and Kingston for draft picks. Just right now waiting to see if we'll get a Kieran Walton announcement soon. That's the big one. That's the big trade that we're waiting for, and we'll have to wait and see if that comes through. Robert Maverick. Barrie needs to get their shots on goal lowered. Karabik and Chaswell are amazing, but 45 plus shots are a lot. And was it the OHL that posted those stats that Karabik leads the league in 41 plus shot games in the Ontario Hockey League by quite a large margin? So yes, that's where I think Von Richter will help. He's a defensive defenseman. He should be able to shut things down. Put him with Kayshawn Aitchison potentially, or on that second pairing. But yeah, that's the one area of focus. The penalty kill was a problem for the Barrie Colts in the first half of the season. They've figured that out. Now it's the defensive game and trying to shut things down and limit those turnovers and the chances coming back the other way. Tay says, I had the chance to go to the Flyers game last night and see Barkey and Cowan play against each other in the NHL. It was extremely strange for sure. Yeah, but that was a pretty tight game, and Easton Cowan getting the game winner in overtime is, for the London Knights, these last few years, a lot of great players have gone through that organization, and now we're going to be able to see what they're able to do at the National Hockey League level. So Barkey now playing with the Flyers, Cowan with the Leafs yeah, that must have been strange, but still pretty exciting because we're kind of spoiled. We see these players here up close in our junior hockey rinks, and then they go off to the National Hockey League and onto the big stage. So now we've got Barkey and Cowan, the latest London Knights, to make that jump. Wild skateboarder. Well, maybe one-sided. Niagara has done a good job of acquiring back burner players from London and giving them either opportunities. Flores, Levin, Paris. Was hoping Reed would be the latest of that. And you know what? Reed could have a bit of a breakout. With picking up Chromiak and Wang. Maybe the second half, the Niagara Ice Dogs will surprise us. Right now, looking at the standings, the Niagara Ice Dogs, they're right now 10 points back of the Barrie Colts. So if Barrie kind of has a bit of a struggle and the Niagara Ice Dogs get hot, they could close that gap. Although the North Bay Battalion, 8 points back of the Barrie Colts in that Central Division race. So we still have just under half the season to go. So you just never know. Maybe something will click. Blaker. I think if Sudbury doesn't find a trade they like, they will keep Walton and just use him to give Nemec and Lemieux points. And that's the other thing too. I think for Walton, if he does stay with the Sudbury Wolves, uh, it's probably not the end of the world because they did get some great picks in return in that trade for Villeneuve and Ferran. If I'm just going to go back to see that trade, but for the Sudbury Wolves, they did great in that deal with the Windsor Spitfires because you did get 2 second-round picks, one in 27, one in 28. You got Peterborough's third-round pick in 2026. So the Sudbury Wolves, they did great in that trade with the Windsor Spitfires. And then J.C. Lemieux looked great in his debut there against the Sioux Greyhounds the other night. So if you do keep Walton, the Wolves will still be a competitive group. If they can find a way to climb to that 4-5 matchup, maybe they could upset an opponent and move on to the second round, but they've got a lot of ground to cover because they were off to a very slow start. The Sudbury Wolves right now sitting with 31 points. So you're 9 points back in Niagara and Kingston for 6th and 7th, but there's a big game tonight, Sudbury against Niagara. So if Walton stays, they need to string some wins together here. They're also 6-4 over their last 10 games. So the Sudbury Wolves have been playing some pretty good hockey of late to get out of the hole. So if Walton doesn't move, then the Sudbury Wolves could make things interesting. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm pretty sure at this point that Walton will be traded. Like I said, it's either going to be Peterborough or Ottawa is the moves that are expected to happen. But yeah, at this point, we're still waiting to see if we get any more moves. But it's still pretty quiet at this point. Let me just reset this. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Anne Marie. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I'm a huge Greyhounds fan. Well, thank you for tuning in from the Sioux. That Sault Ste. Marie was is such a great road trip. We were up there. Was that back in October? And we went to Fratelli's for a lunch up there. So shout out to Fratelli's. They're not a sponsor, but if they wanted to sponsor the channel, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, the Sioux, a great spot. The fans up there are fantastic, and if you're a junior hockey fan and you ever get a chance to go to Sault Ste. Marie, worth the trip. Just don't do it in the winter. Go in the fall. It's gorgeous in the fall. The fall colors and up that way. We got to do that this year with the Barrie Colts. Or go in the spring. But yeah, Anne Marie, thank you very much for tuning in from Sault Ste. Marie and the Greyhounds. Picking up Carter George, they mean business. The Greyhounds, they're going to be fun to follow in the second half. So you got to an entertaining group, and they've got some big games this weekend against Ottawa and then Niagara, as they're going to have to find their way to get back into the top four. Looking at the Western Conference standings, the Sioux Greyhounds right now, they're sitting fifth, 1 point back of the London Knights. They got a lot of ground to make up in the the West Division. The Flint Firebirds right now, 58 points, so that's 12-point difference between Sault Ste. Marie and Flint. So a lot of work there if the Greyhounds are going to make it to the top. But I do like that look for the Sioux Greyhounds. Brady Martin, he's a beast. And you also added Fitzgerald, so the future looking all right there too for Sault Ste. Marie. And that's a team too. I'm wondering if they make a move, as they could add to that roster. But uh, yeah, Sault Ste. Marie, that might be a team also just to keep an eye on. They could still add, but we'll have to keep an eye on that one as we're still waiting to see if we get any more moves as we're now past 10 o'clock. And I'm wondering too if it's just going to be a barrage of trades. They're kind of they're probably the domino to fall is probably Kieran Walton. As soon as the Walton trade comes in, then teams are going to pivot and we'll see other moves pick up. So I'm thinking that's probably the trade that we're waiting for right now. That's holding things up is probably the Kieran Walton move. Dylan, what kind of player are we getting in Zabeski? Well, Zabeski, not quite a point per game player, but he is that guy that's going to go to the net. He's not afraid to mix things up in the corners. Very physical. He's the former captain of the Brampton Steelheads. His comparable in the Colts right now may be a bit of a Calvin Crombie type. So he's playoff ready. He's going to be a competitor. He's going to compete. He's going to dig hard. He's going to go to the net. So it's Zabeski, a great pickup for the Barrie Colts, and I think Colt fans are going to like what they see with Zabeski. And Josh McCann says Fratelli's does take cash. If anyone was wondering, Josh McCann is our host on Rogers TV, and he also helps out with color commentary on the radio. And he was with us in Sault Ste. Marie, and he's the kind of guy that only uses cash, and he was happy to see that Fratelli's takes cash up in Sault Ste. Marie. Tay, who in your opinion has been the most disappointing team so far this deadline? I would probably say Sarnia. They are a team that needs to shake things up. I was kind of wondering if maybe this would be a good point for them to focus a bit more on their future because it looks as though they're going to miss the playoffs now for the third straight year in a row. They traded away Lucas Fisher, and at that point, it was like, okay, so they're going to sell. But then they brought in Challenger, they brought in Howery, so they're getting younger. But I felt like maybe this trade deadline, they could. I thought Mitch Young would have been a player they would have moved out and maybe brought in some more picks. So Sarnia has been the team. I've been really surprised with the lack of movement. Things could still change, but obviously you can't change Mitch Young now because he's an overager. But the Sarnia Sting, this is like that because last year they didn't do anything either at the trade deadline. They're a team that leaves you wanting more, and I'm a little surprised that they're not doing more to help that group go forward because they got some good talent. Edwards, Diorio, uh, Quinlan and net, he's been all right, but I'm surprised Sarnia has been quiet here at the OHL trade deadline. But right now it is basically 10 after 10. We're now down to an hour and 50 minutes until the OHL trade deadline. So it's we're still waiting for that we're waiting for that second trade. Do we really count the trade between Sudbury and Kingston? It was just draft picks going both ways. Because we want to see player movement. That's what we're looking for, right? But yeah, it's been a quiet start. I kind of figured it's been like this the last 2 years. We've done this live stream where the first hour and a bit is quiet, and then we start to get trades picking up. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I want to thank everyone so far for taking part in the live stream. Still waiting to see the big Kieran Walton trade. That's the one we're waiting for. But yeah, so thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in so far. It's been great to see the channel continue to grow. If you're a new subscriber, welcome aboard. And yeah, we'll continue to do this live stream as we move forward. Blaker says, do you think a player like Alessandro Diorio could be made available? I don't think Sarnia moves him. They just named him as their next captain after, yeah, I don't know if it wouldn't really be a good look if you name him captain and then the next week trade him. So I don't think Diorio would be available. That's never been a name that I've heard come up in Sarnia, although information out of Sarnia has been not so much. It's been pretty lacking, but uh, Diorio would be a piece that team would get quite a bit in return. I think that would be a next year move, but we'll. I'd be surprised if Diorio is a player that moves out of Sarnia. Tay says, if this was a week or two ago, most disappointing for me would have been the Spitfires, but I agree with Sarnia for sure. They can't seem to pick a direction. And yeah, Windsor, a lot of us were wondering, okay, what's Windsor doing? Because they were very quiet. I think a lot of the unknown was would Michael Misa and Zane Parekh return to Saginaw, but as soon as we heard Parekh wasn't coming back and then Misa wasn't coming back, I think for Windsor, they then shifted their focus to Sudbury and then were able to bring in Villeneuve and Walton. They've done an amazing job. I love the pickup of Jakob Fibiger. The Windsor Spitfires are going to be a very tough team to play against. But yes, if we were talking a week ago, I'd say Windsor would be the most disappointing, but they've done fantastic. Bill Bowler going all out here. This Spitfires team, they're in a battle. The Flint Firebirds right now tied with them in points. Spitfires have the tiebreaker, so I think it's what a fascinating race it's going to be in the West. And Jennifer, hey, are you going to stay live until after the deadline? Yes, the plan is to stay on a little bit after 12 o'clock. So maybe we'll wrap up quarter after, 20 after. We'll see what's going on because I do have to get ready for the trip to Guelph because the Barrie Colts are on the road visiting the Guelph Storm. So we're doing the radio broadcast here on the channel. So we'll have to make the journey down there. But the plan is to stay live after the deadline because there's always trades that trickle in after the 12 o'clock deadline because that's where they send in the paperwork to the league and then the league has to process it, go over all the details, and then they make it official. So yes, the plan is to stay live for a little bit after 12 o'clock, and then we'll wrap things up, and I'll get ready to head down to Guelph for tonight's game, and maybe we can get Mark Perret on the broadcast here tonight because he's the color commentator with the Storm. I've had him on here on the channel before talking about the Storm when they put in their bid to host the Memorial Cup. He had a great argument why the Storm should host the Memorial Cup next year, and lo and behold, now the Storm are hosting. So I'm going to have to reconnect with Mark tonight and get him on the broadcast, as that'll probably be our second intermission feature. So if Mark's tuning in, he's been warned that when I get to the rink at the Sleeman Center, him and I are going to have a chat. Brandon, when are we going to see a trade from the Barrie Colts? Great question. I'm still waiting to see what happens. I think the Colts, I think they're going to probably add a forward. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But if they don't make a move, I don't think it's the end of the world for them. Picking up Wilmot, Zabeski, and Von Richter, I think is great already. But I'm expecting once Walton goes, then we're going to see some trades. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. But I'm going to take a quick little breather here, and then we'll return and continue with the OHL Trade Deadline 2026. Thank you very much, everyone tuning in. You can still put your comments in the box, and I'm going to see if I'm going to find out any new information so we can pass it along. So stay tuned. I'm just going to take a bit of a breather, and when we come back, we'll see if there's any trades. So I'll be back momentarily. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in so far, as it's the trade deadline day here for the Ontario Hockey League. So it's OHL Trade Deadline Day. We are just over an hour and a half from wrapping up the trade deadline, and then we can start the second half push to the 2026 OHL Playoffs. It has been a quiet morning if you're just tuning in. Only one trade to report, and that's between Sudbury and Kingston, where they swapped draft picks. Sudbury getting a fifth, and Kingston getting a seventh. So now you're up to date. That's all that's happened so far this morning, and it's still pretty quiet. That's what I'm hearing from a few people I've messaged. Not much going on, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, is this the calm before the storm? As we're still waiting for maybe a move or two to take place, especially the Kieran Walton speculation. It ramped up last night, right before the Peterborough Oshawa game. It sounded like Kieran Walton was on his way to Peterborough. And that was kind of left field, as many were expecting Ottawa, Barrie, or Windsor. But right now, it seems like it may be down to Peterborough and Ottawa, although it's pretty quiet. Maybe everyone's still sleeping in. But we're here. I want to thank everyone who's taken part in the chat so far as we continue with the live stream. We're going to do the live stream right up to 12 o'clock, and we'll go past 12 just in case there's any sort of moves that come in after the fact. But right now, it's just that one trade so far. So we'll wait and see what happens next. So I want to thank everyone, like I said, for taking part in the chat. We'll continue to go through the messages here. And the last message here, Wild Skateboarder says, as the commentator of the Barrie Colts, do you have a favorite Colts player / alumni? And this, I would probably say out of my time doing the Barrie Colts, Bo Jelsma may be one of my favorites. I've been covering the Barrie Colts now my 9th season with Barrie, and for my time with the Colts, Jelsma really stands out. Great leader on and off the ice. He's the one that I remember going on the road one time. I brought my son to London, and we went to the arena there. We got there just as the Colts showed up, and Jelsma, the player, willing to chat, and he just saw my son there, and the two of them struck up a conversation. So such a nice guy, and a player that I really hope gets a shot at the National Hockey League. Right now playing university hockey in the NCAA. Hopefully he gets his chance. But Bo Jelsma, probably my favorite to call so far. Although picking up Parker Von Richter, it's my favorite name to call right now in the Ontario Hockey League. So it's kind of fun that he's now a member of the Barrie Colts. So thank you, Marty Williamson, for that. But I would say that's probably my favorite. But I've been now covering the league for 17 years. And over that time, Gabriel Landeskog, when I was with the Kitchener Rangers, he was a solid guy. Like he took the time to talk to everybody when he was the captain of the Rangers. There was times where I'd do an interview with him, and then right away he'd be chatting with a few fans, and he would take the time to talk to everybody who was there. So I'd probably say Jelsma, Landeskog would probably be two of my favorite players during my time covering the Ontario Hockey League. And Brody says, what are the Colts getting out of Wilmot? Well, Ben Wilmot, this is his first year in the Ontario Hockey League. He was a free agent signing by the London Knights. He's been pretty steady offensively. He's got a great shot. He'll probably play on the wing from the sounds of it. You could put him on the line there with Hemming and Bodwin. That could be your top line. Wilmot is going to add probably to the offense. He had a goal and assist in the one game in Barrie when the London Knights were in town. So he's an offensive player. He's going to help hopefully get the goal scoring going, because that's been an issue at times for the Barrie Colts, is finding the back of the net. So Wilmot will definitely help with that front. Expect him to be with Bodwin and Hemming probably tonight when the Barrie Colts are in Guelph. Murray. Hi, Mike. Greetings from a longtime Greyhounds fan and former Suite, now residing in Swansea, Wales. Wow. So Murray, tuning in from Wales. Well, I guess it's afternoon where you are. So good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in from Wales. That's pretty epic. So great to have a Greyhounds fan here on the channel. And it's been really cool just to see, since I've been doing this channel, just where fans come from. And man, from Wales. That's epic. Well, thanks for tuning in, Murray. Crank video. With the Battalion adding a couple of Saginaw players in Barch and Gervais, do you think they add another piece, or more than likely subtract as it looks like they have 25 players on roster already? The North Bay Battalion are a team that I said at the beginning of the year could be a dark horse in the Eastern Conference. Right now, 8 points back of Barrie for the Central Division lead. It sounds like their focus is to continue to challenge Barrie for top spot in the Central Division. And then adding these veteran players, Barch and Gervais, kind of cements that. So they could make a move here. I know there's been some who've been asking, would they trade Ethan Procession? I doubt it. I don't think they'd be moving, their captain and leading scorer. This is a battalion group that they're kind of like Ottawa. They're focused on next year. You've got that group in the Eastern Conference, North Bay, Ottawa, Peterborough, Kingston. Those are the four teams right now that they're the teams, maybe next year are ready to take, that next step. Ottawa is early. They're ahead of schedule and now look to be potential buyers. But North Bay, look out for them next year. They've taken some great steps, and the trades of the Barrie Colts last year have really helped that team. Parker Vaughn took a little bit to get going this year, but he's looked nice, fit in nicely of late. Even Shamar Moses, and then just everyone around it. So for North Bay, they maybe subtract a player, or maybe you send down a couple players to Powassan to play for the Voodoos. But I do like that grouping with the North Bay Battalion. They want to make things interesting. They they could still challenge here the Peterborough Petes for that fourth spot. Maybe that's why the Petes looking to Kieran Walton as a possibility to try and make sure they get home ice advantage as the North Bay Battalion and Niagara Ice Dogs right there challenging them there in the middle of the pack. Tay, we have seen this be a problem for teams in the past. Do you think Brantford did too much? That's a great question when it comes to the Brantford Bulldogs because you can't play everybody all at once. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this group comes together. I was using an example earlier. Look at Team Canada at the World Juniors. You have so much talent on that group, and then you get tripped up by a team like Czechia. So it's I think it's good what they have. They've got so much talent. They're going to be a really good team. But if that chemistry doesn't click and they kind of fall apart, then yes, I think maybe too much it would be considered a factor with that team. But they've got so many great pieces. They had, Manny Malhotra, Malhotra has been so good coming over since he was in the BCHL last year. His dad's Manny Malhotra, but Caleb Malhotra, and it's they already had such a good team, and then they just keep adding and adding. So we'll see how that all comes together because that's going to be a big focus here for the Brantford Bulldogs. If did they do too much? Because you don't want to mess with chemistry, especially when you've got your eyes set on being a Memorial Cup champion. Then we've got Wild Skateboarder. Peterborough was also a team that was going to be potential go for it kind of team next year. Do you think getting Walton could jeopardize that? I think if they traded McGregor back to Sudbury, that could be what jeopardizes the Peterborough Pete's future. That's why when that came out yesterday that it was McGregor potentially going back, I was shocked because the Peterborough Petes, they have a good core. They've been kind of peeling at it when they traded Caden Taylor to Owen Sound and then Colin Fitzgerald to Sault Ste. Marie. Because it sounds like those players wanted out or there was other situations going on behind the scenes, depending on the rumors. But if you traded away McGregor, I think that would be the wrong decision for Peterborough for a team that's, I think next year is their year to go for it. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. If it is Eula going the other way, that makes a little more sense because then you've got McGregor still for next year because he's such a talented individual. But the Petes, I was also a little surprised by the Hammond and Fraser trade. I get why they did it, bring in the size, but the Petes are a team that I think has the potential to be a really good team next year. And you don't want to just throw that away when you've got Brantford, Ottawa, and Barrie so much farther ahead as they seem to be the top three. Unless you have the confidence in Easton Rye that he's going to steal you a series, but they've been playing him so much. So maybe they're a team that could look to add a backup goaltender. At this point, I don't know who you would go for, but because if Easton Rye goes down, then that Peterborough Pete's team in a lot of trouble. So we'll wait and see. We're still waiting to see if the Walton trade goes through with the Peterborough Pete's as I keep refreshing my feeds, but it's we'll have to wait and see here. I think the Peterborough Petes have a lot of potential to be a great team next year. But Yeah, they don't want to just throw that away because this is a Pete's team with a lot of potential. But um, yeah, we'll have to. I'm curious as to what direction this goes because the Petes were not a team I was expecting to be in the Kieran Walton conversation. There was some chat about them being interested in Villeneuve earlier in the regular season, which surprised me also at that time because I didn't think the Petes were at a position to be going for the big fish per se, but obviously they see something there that they want to go for, and we'll see if that actually all pans out. But right now, it is still pretty quiet when it comes to the trade deadline. It's now 10:30, so we have an hour and a half to go. Just the one trade so far to report. That's between Sudbury and Kingston, and that was just two teams swapping picks. So hopefully that's not the only trade we get today, because I got to use my fun graphic. I only got to use it once. I want to use it at least twice, but we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. But it's going to be, we still got time. And I feel as though once we get that one trade, the domino's going to fall and we're going to go from there. But it's been, it's gonna be fascinating just to see how this all plays out. Because the Peterborough Petes, looking at the standings, they're right now holding on to that fourth seed. They do have a bit of a gap on North Bay, 5 points up on the North Bay Battalion, but uh, North Bay, they're going to be better with Gervais and Barsh added to their lineup. The Niagara Ice Dogs, what are they going to, because you got Chromiak and Wang. I feel like those were the missing pieces at the start of the season. They needed to add to their defense, and now they've done it. So can they turn it around? They're sitting at 40 points, tied with the Kingston Frontenacs. Kingston, another team that they want to make the playoffs. That's why they kept Malik McGowan because he would have fetched a pretty penny there if the Kingston Frontenacs decided to move on from McGowan, but they kept him because they want to play for a playoff spot. They could still catch North Bay. They're sitting seventh. And then Sudbury and Brampton right now tied for that eighth seed with 31 points. Sudbury right now, they do have the tiebreaker over Brampton, but now that Brampton is sold off, they're going to probably step back. I think it's going to be Brampton and Oshawa who are going to miss the playoffs this year. So Sudbury should make the playoffs, but if they finish in that eighth seed, then you have to play. Well, if the playoffs started today, you'd have Ottawa Sudbury, and I don't know if I like that matchup if I'm the Sudbury Wolves, but time will tell. Uh, Brody says, "Who is the most surprising team for you this year?" For me, it's Flint. And Brody, there was the media poll that was done, and I put down the Flint Firebirds because I thought Flint would be a decent team, probably middle of the pack. I did not expect them to challenge for top spot in the West Division. This year has actually been the year of surprises because I didn't expect the Ottawa 67s to be where they are either. But for Nathan Aspinall, he really, since he signed that entry level contract with the New York Rangers, he took that next step in his game. And then Vakari has been lights out, and they've got a great group up front. We get to actually see the Flint Firebirds for the first time in person next week. I believe that's Thursday. The Flint Firebirds are in Barrie. Can't wait to see what they're like on the ice. Every time, I remember talking to Jim Gilchrist with the Kingston Frontenacs. They had the Flint Firebirds in town the night before, and I asked Jim, like, are they legit? And he was telling me about how great they are as a group. Flash has them playing the systems well, and I would agree. The Flint Firebirds, they are a surprise, and seeing them with now Kevin He and Jacob Battaglio, two great pickups. It's that battle in the Western Conference. It's going to be great. Josh McCann with the Gowan and Amidovsky trade. 4 of 9 full-time OHL players from the U16 AAA Barrie team. That was so good a few years ago, have now been traded, including the entire top line. I love the stats that Josh brings out. But yeah, I didn't even clue into that. It's fascinating. Even from the 2024 draft, where only 3 players in the top 10 haven't been traded, Belchis, Diorio, and there's somebody else. But yeah, it's fascinating how many players have been traded from that 2024 draft first round, and then now bringing up Gowan and Amidovsky. That's 4 of 9. Tay, do you think Nickel could be an option to be traded, or with him just coming back after a long injury, does that make London not willing to trade him? Well, with Ben Wilmot being traded, I'm wondering if the London Knights are given an offer, they probably would consider it at this point. I think that for the London Knights if you can move Nickel. He's got that experience. Obviously, coming back from injury, it's going to take him a little bit to get going. But if that's where I think it's the dominoes, because if Walton moves, say it's Peterborough, say the Peterborough Petes, they get Kieran Walton, you're going to have a team like the Ottawa 67s that's going to be like, okay, so we're going to pivot. Do you look to Nickel in London? So that could be a fit. I know someone on the chat asked about Jake Crawford and Owen Sound. Could he be a player that could be on the move? I'm not saying that I've heard rumors about it, but that was a name brought up here on the chat. So once that first domino goes, then teams are going to start pivoting, and we'll look and we'll probably hear names that we didn't consider before as being a possibility. But I think Nickel is. I think if the Knights are given a package, they probably would do what they're doing already. User JB6, is Erie going to improve for next year with all the moves made this week? For the Erie Otters, they're an interesting group because last year was their year to go for it, but the injuries with Matthew Schaefer and just with now Malcolm Spence leaving in the offseason last year, it feels like the Erie Otters are just spinning their wheels right now. They have done some moves, I think, which will help. Of course, getting some assets in return in that Dylan Edwards trade with the Kitchener Rangers. They got Michael Deck. He's been fantastic since coming over from the Owen Sound attack. I feel like Erie should be better next year. Obviously, Erliden, he's going to graduate. So I think for the Erie Otters, Tegelar, is he going to be the goalie of the future next season? It's hard to tell because he's had limited time with the Sioux Greyhounds. So for the Erie Otters, maybe they're a little bit better next year. They should. It's hard to say if they'll make the playoffs this year because right now they're in that ninth spot, 5 points back of the Saginaw Spirit. Saginaw, of course, they've sold off a bit. So could Erie catch Saginaw? It's yeah, Erie is a team that I feel like should be doing better, but it's been, I think that last year was a series of unfortunate events which derailed their season, and then this year it's just been hard to get going. Um, I would hope Erie is better next year, but we'll have to wait and see. I think goaltending is going to be a big question mark for Erie once we get to the offseason. Blaker, what trades happened last 20 minutes? I wasn't there. Well, I can tell you there's been no movement. We're still waiting. The only trade still is Sudbury and Kingston swapping draft picks. So you haven't missed any moves. It's been pretty quiet. That's even from messaging a few people, and they're even saying we haven't really heard too much. So we're less than an hour and a half now away from the OHL trade deadline, and yeah, we're still waiting there, Blake. Dylan, the OAs for next season with the Colts is sad. Well, that's the thing with this year is for the Barrie Colts, they were getting so many offers for players like Bodwin, Aitchison, and Hemming that they could have been a seller. And I know there's a few people on the channel in the comments saying, no, the Barrie Colts are going to sell. They're going to sell because they're going to be awful next year if they buy. But that's how junior hockey works. So it's for the Barrie Colts next season. Yes, they're going to take a step back. They're going to have some good talent coming back next year, but it's not going to be the same as what we see this season. But I'm sure for Marty Williamson, he's going to probably look to address the OA situation next year. But, they went to the Eastern Conference Final last year against the Oshawa Generals. That was a strong group. This year is a very strong group. So next year, I do expect them to take a step back, but I'm sure they will or I'm sure they'll look to address the OA situation. But the whole landscape of the Ontario Hockey League is changed now that we've got the whole NCAA situation. They could sign some OA free agents who are maybe playing NCAA this year. There's always the USHL approach. That's what we saw with the London Knights. They signed a couple of OAs free agents. So maybe the Barrie Colts go that way as well. But it's a very different dynamic right now in junior hockey. P. Sakamoto, coming to Barrie for the Steelheads game tomorrow. Hope to see you there, Mike. Well, if you are at the game early enough, come on up to the press box. Come and say hi. It's always nice to meet fans from across the OHL. And I got to say, is so many people give a hard time to the Brampton Steelheads because of the attendance. I got to say, I've met so many passionate Brampton Steelhead fans. It's so awesome just to see, that they have the fan support. It would just be nice to see more of it. But yeah, if you want to come up to the press box tomorrow, come on up, say hi. And he also says, why doesn't the OHL allow first round picks to be traded? I think it comes down to that they try to save GMs from themselves because we see it in the Western Hockey League. Some of those trades are just insane. Even in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, they allow the first round trades. It's meant to make sure that all 20 teams have a first round pick for the draft because if you get one team that goes crazy and trades all their first round picks, you trade your top prospects to buy for that season, then the team's going to be really bad the next couple of years. Obviously, they can come back, but I think that's what it comes down to. The Ontario Hockey League trying to make sure that teams have those first round picks. I do like the compulsory picks that teams get if a player doesn't want to report. Well, like we've seen in the past, where a player says, "I don't want to play for the team that drafted me," so that you trade their rights and then they get the extra pick. Brampton, a team that's benefited from that this past season. Uh, Kingston, the Sioux, they've benefited. It's so it's that's why they don't trade those first round picks because I think GMs would probably be pretty uh, if you let them loose there with those picks, the trades I think would get even more pretty crazy, more so than we see already with all the trades, with all the picks. That's why the second round picks are huge. Those are treated like gold. I thought that was a trade, but no, that was an old trade being reshared. Yeah, still waiting to see what we get. We're just sitting on that one trade so far this morning. It has been quiet, just like last year. Matt, do you think Erie trades anyone else? I wonder if the Erie Otters might be done. I don't think they'll look to trade anybody else at this point. I know the Brantford Bulldogs are the only team that have come out and said they're done with trading. But the Erie Otters, they made their moves yesterday. Tegelar was a good pickup because they want to have a goaltender for next year. So I feel as though Erie should be done, but we'll have to wait and see because I'm not hearing anything right now when it comes to the Erie Otters. But time will tell. Dylan, do you think the trade players like Bodwin, Aitchison, and them next season? That is a possibility. The thing though to remember in the CBA for the National Hockey League next year, if it goes through, it sounds like it's already been approved. 19-year-olds will be allowed to play in the American Hockey League, so that could be where Cole Bodwin could play for the Tucson Roadrunners next year if the Utah Mammoths decide that he's not ready for NHL, but they want him in the American Hockey League because he's done all that he can in the OHL. So that's going to be the next level for OHL teams with their top talent. They could go to the American Hockey League early. So that's something to keep an eye on for next season for the Barrie Colts. So even Kayshawn Aitchison, uh, he could be in the American Hockey League next year because every NHL team, the way it works or the way that it's written is that they can allow one 19-year-old on their American Hockey League roster. So that could be Cole Bodwin, for example, with Utah. They could decide to play him with the Tucson Roadrunners. But if he does come back to Barrie and say the Colts are in the bottom half of the standings, then yes, Bodwin could be someone flipped if he doesn't make it to the NHL or the American Hockey League next year. Uh, Kyle Collins, what's your opinion on the Barrie Colts equipment staff this year? And I feel as though, Kyle, that's a loaded question because I know you are a part of the equipment staff and you're doing a fantastic job there. So the equipment staff, fantastic, great to work with on the road even. So it's equipment staff on every team does a top-notch job. When I was traveling with the Sudbury Wolves, there was times where you'd roll into an arena at 1 a.m. or whatever, and everyone would have to unpack the bus. Then you go to the hotel, but it's the trainers and the equipment staff that stayed behind to make sure the room was ready for the following game the next morning. So, the equipment staff, amazing hard workers on every team in the Ontario Hockey League. So, we're going to, thumbs up, Kyle, and doing a great job there with the Barrie Colts. Crank video. With the NCAA stuff, can you rely on, well, next year? Oh, whoops. Comment bumped up. Okay. With the NCAA stuff, can you rely on, well, next year should be our year and possibly end up losing one or two of your best players to the NCAA. Or if you're good this year, like Ottawa, you say you got to do it. Yeah, and that's where the whole NCAA landscape is. It's going to be hard, and the jobs of um, the general managers right now is so hard as it is that it's that whole NCAA level, and then you're going to have players that are going to go off to the American Hockey League early. It's it's going to be harder now, I think, for teams to be like, okay, 27, 28, that's going to be our go for it year, but things can change, and there's going to be players that don't report or something comes up. So yeah, it's the whole NCAA thing is throwing uh, everything. Everything is just, I think, more intense right now. How everything is playing out. Anne Marie, I heard we might get Walton. Now, Anne Marie, I think, are you not with Sault Ste. Marie? I think you're a Greyhounds fan. Um, yeah, I'm still waiting to find out what's going on with Walton. Yeah, the rumors. There's going to be rumors. They're going to be swirling. But yeah, nothing official as of yet. We're still waiting for Kieran Walton to move on. And Brandon Sumi, Kyle the GOAT. Yes, he is the GOAT. You are correct. The Armchair GM Sports Network. There we go. Not an easy task to do on your own when the teams aren't giving you much of substance yet today, Mike. Keep up the dedicated work covering the OHL, Brandon. Well, Brandon, I know you've got your live stream coming up after the trade deadline. So, you know what? It is fun just to talk junior hockey. And, if you haven't checked out Armchair GM Sports Network, highly recommend it. Had Brandon here on the channel a couple weeks ago before Christmas, and they do a good job over there. But yeah, the GMs, if maybe they're sleeping in. I don't know. Maybe their alarms are going off at 11 o'clock. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, it's these last 2 years have been very quiet. I think it was my first year doing the live stream. We had a few trades and some signings, but this year the GMs are not giving us much. So hopefully, well, even for you, Brandon, I hope there's stuff to talk about. Just seeing what's here. Yeah, we're just getting all the posts about game day stuff, and it's been very quiet. We'll see what happens. Greg, good morning, Mike. In your opinion, do you think the Ottawa 67s are complete? And more cowbell. Greg, love the fact that you bring your bell everywhere. Do it. I hope you come back to Barrie when the 67s are in town. With Ottawa, it sounds like they're still trying to add. Kieran Walton is the big piece remaining. Is he going to be traded? Will he be Ottawa? Will he be Peterborough? We'll have to wait and see. But I think Ottawa will probably look to add another piece up front. But you never know. Aiden, teams will want their first round draft picks to be good, but not too good that they get recruited by an NCAA school by their age 17 or 18 season. That's just it. Like, it's such an interesting time right now. Like, look at Sarnia, for example. They've been drafting some, in the top four these last 3 years. And those top players, if your team's not, competitive or competing, what's stopping them from wanting to go NCAA? We saw that with Brady Wasselin last year, announcing that he's got that commitment to Boston College, and then he's flipped to the London Knights. So does he go to Boston College? So there's all these different dynamics. And now we find out about Carter George and how he was looking at Boston College mid-season. It's anybody's guess with how things are going to go. The job right now for the general managers, it is tough stuff. But yeah, it's a good point. You want good players, but you don't want them to be too good too fast. And it's going to be hard for teams to build for going forward. And Kyle, are you going to Guelph today? I am going to Guelph today. So once I'm done this live stream, I'll get the equipment set up, pick up Josh McCann, and we're going to go down and do the broadcast from the Sleeman Center. And it's going to be a fun game tonight, seeing Baudouin, Aitchison, Hemming all back from the World Juniors and see how the new guys look. Wilmot, Zabeski, and Von Richter. So yes, we are making the trip to Guelph tonight. Should be a great game. Love going down to the Sleeman Center. And yeah, it's going to be a good game tonight. You can catch the broadcast on the channel. So if you're a Barrie Colts fan or even a Guelph Storm fan and you want to tune in, we do have the fan chat during the broadcast. So it's kind of like this, where we talk to the fans, talk about the game, talk about what's going on in the OHL. And yes, you can tune in. The live stream for tonight's game begins at 6:45. Puck drop, I think, is scheduled for 7:07. But yeah, we will be in Guelph tonight to cover that game. Robert Maverick. Hey, Mike, do you think Carter George gets the start tonight if he made his way to the Sioux? Well, they're playing the Ottawa 67, so I think that would be a great start for him. I haven't heard if he's made his way there because he has to fly up, but Bodie Stewart, he made his Saginaw Spirit debut last night after being traded yesterday. So if Stewart can make his way from Barrie to Saginaw and then play that night, I wouldn't be surprised if George gets the start. They got 2 home games to go this weekend. So tonight against Ottawa, and then they have Niagara on Sunday, if I remember correctly. So George will get the start for probably one of those 2 games, then Landon Miller the other. Wild skateboarder with Guelph hosting the Memorial Cup. Who are some players you think the Storm will go for immediately? And I know that that trade with Jet Luchenko seemed a little light. Mike Farwell on the OHL podcast kind of had his tinfoil hat on and was saying, does this mean Malhotra is going to end up with the Guelph Storm in the offseason? The league kind of said they don't want those trades anymore. That kind of goes back to the Steve Mason deal with Nazem Kadri, but Malhotra will probably be a target. The Brantford Bulldogs, they're probably going to have some players they're going to look to sell off after this year, but I would expect Malhotra could be a target, but who knows? If he's a first-round pick this year in the NHL draft, does he stick in the NHL? That's going to be a question mark there, but players like that, I think the Guelph Storm will probably look to add. But anyways, we are coming up to almost the final hour of the OHL trade deadline day. 1 trade so far. I'm going to take a quick break, a couple minutes here, get some water, make sure my voice is able to hold up. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, so far for tuning in. We will take a quick break, and when we return, will we have a trade to talk about? Hopefully we will. I'm hoping we get another trade. I want to use my graphic. But anyways, I'm going to take a break, go get some coffee, get a snack, and we'll be back here as we discuss the OHL trade deadline for 2026. So we are now an hour away from the OHL trade deadline for 2026. It has been a very quiet morning. We've only had one trade to announce. That was between the Sudbury Wolves and the Kingston Frontenacs. That was a fifth round pick to the Sudbury Wolves and a sixth or seventh to Kingston. Either way, no player movement as of yet. We're still waiting for Kieran Walton with all the rumors have been swirling around. The latest has been the Peterborough Petes have put in an offer for Kieran Walton. The other thing that's going to come down to is no trade clause. Does players want to go to point A or point B? So that could be a factor holding up trades. But at this point, it's been quiet, and I think it's that domino that a lot of teams are waiting for. Once that falls, teams will then pivot, but man, they are running out of time. We're now down to just 1 hour until the trade deadline. Although some trades could trickle in after 12 o'clock, it all depends on when that trade report has been filed with the Ontario Hockey League. We've seen that in the past, and you get that in the National Hockey League too, where trades isn't announced for maybe even an hour after the trade deadline. So we'll wait and see here. We've been doing this live stream since 9 o'clock this morning, covering the OHL trade deadline. I want to thank those who've been with us since the start of the live stream. Appreciate everyone tuning in. And we'll see what's in store as we're now in the final 59 minutes until the trade deadline. And right now, just how everything looks, it's all quiet right now in the Ontario Hockey League. So we'll wait and see what comes in. But yeah, as soon as we get confirmation of trades, we can discuss it here, and we'll see what happens next. But yeah, it's been entertaining these last few days. It'd just be nice if we could have a trade or two here on deadline morning. So let's go back to the chat. Says that's the great thing about doing these live streams on YouTube. That we can have the fan interaction, get the chat going, and see where everybody's at. We've had people checking in from Sault Ste. Marie, Ottawa, Sudbury, London, even Wales. We had a Greyhounds fan who came in here from Wales to talk about his fandom. Yeah, it's been fantastic. So thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Noah Escape. Sarnia really hurt themselves by moving Martone during their all-in push a couple of years ago. And that was the year they traded both Martone and Angus McDonnell. And the Steelheads doing a great job getting those two players. And it seemed as though the Steelheads were primed for a deep run last year. Injuries really derailed the season for the Steelheads last season as they look like the team to beat. But that's just it. At the trade deadline, you just never know when you trade away some of these first round picks. Sarnia, a team that doesn't usually go all in, as they don't usually have those teams that you say, yeah, this is going to be a team that's going to go for it. And, if my memory serves me right, there was a lot of excitement in Sarnia that season, bringing in players like Delbel Balouz and Del Monte. And it was I think, for Sarnia, great to see them go for that run that season. But you do give up some big pieces when you do decide to go all in. So that's the fun thing too. If you're a team, one of these team, that are as a seller, look at the Owen Sound Attack trading away Bedkowski. One of those picks could turn into a really nice pickup deep in the round. This is where scouting is going to be huge for teams. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens next. Matthew Holcomb. I'm from London. I go to see London and Brantford tonight. In London, what are you thinking of Brantford this season? That should be a fun game tonight. London versus the Brantford Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, they are, I'm going to say it, they're the team to beat right now in the Eastern Conference. They've loaded up all season long. They are a serious contender in the Eastern Conference. So they've added, of course, the last trade was Gabriel Frasca from the Erie Otters. It sounds like they're done. That's what Spencer Hyman said in an article the other day, basically saying that they got the players they were going after. The last trade was to pick up a second-round pick from the Kingston Frontenacs. But I really like the looks of this Brantford Bulldogs team. They are going to be, their goal is to win the Memorial Cup. So that should be a good game tonight between London and Brantford. Paul Collins, what radio station do you work for? I will tune in. I work for Life 100.3 in Barrie. So I'm on the morning show as the news director. So if you want to tune in, that'd be great. So yeah, I took the day off work to cover this trade deadline. where we've only had one trade. But yeah, that's the radio station that I work at. We play tonight and tomorrow night. We're off on Sunday. So yeah, I think I said Sunday against Niagara. But yes, you're correct. I saw the schedule there, and I did make a mistake on that front. But thank you for clarifying there, Anne Marie. Paul Collins, my favorite is a Calgary station. Great music. So, well, I guess are you from Calgary then? Well, welcome aboard. Dave, more than you would be shocked if McGregor was traded. All of Peterborough would be, and that's the thing with this trade deadline. If sometimes teams will make those desperate moves, and we'll see what happens. But uh, I think it'd be a great mistake if the Peterborough Petes ended up shipping McGregor out of town. That'd be huge if you're a Sudbury Wolves fan. If you got McGregor for Kieran Walton, but that's the thing. Mark Tone and McDonnell, they were traded out of Sarnia that year in a go-in year for the Sting. But that was when Sarnia was tops in the division, whereas the Peterborough Petes right now, there's a gap between them and the top spot in the Eastern Conference standing. So I would be quite shocked if McGregor was the piece going the other way. The rumors are Ula. We'll see if that comes forward. The trade still has not been official or made official. We'll have to wait and see. It could come down to no trade clauses, and we've seen that in the past. That if you get a no trade clause in the way, and then a trade falls apart, and then you have to pivot. So we'll see if maybe that's something that's a factor, and maybe that's why we haven't had a Kieran Walton trade. And I think that's why it's been very quiet this morning. We're waiting for that first trade to come down, and then the floodgates will open, and then the GMs have until 12 o'clock to submit any trades that may come across their table. So that's what we're waiting for. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get one trade and then all of a sudden it's trade, and we'll see where things end up. Yobre, do you think Kitchener Rangers are done adding? I think they have one card left, is what I heard. So the Rangers could add another piece. I think they're set on the back end. Could they add another goaltender? You got Kirsch and Schaubel. Schaubel's okay as a backup, but you see sometimes where teams will want to have two capable goaltenders. You look at Brantford, Igorov, and Leanders, two goaltenders that are pretty solid. Ottawa has Nelson and Fedorov. So for Kitchener, I don't even know which goaltender you would look to target, but I think the Kitchener Rangers may look to add. It's a similar situation right now that the Barrie Colts are in. It sounds like they're looking to add another forward up front, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't think they're in on the Kieran Walton discussions, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers add one more piece. No Escape. Erie just named their new leadership group. Yes, I saw that Trevino is going to be the new captain of the Erie Otters. So I think if you're announcing your leadership group, that may be an indication that they may be done on the trade front. So Trevino, the new captain of the Erie Otters. So that's I think for Erie, they're trying to look on for the future. They got a pretty decent core. We'll see what they can do here. If they can make the playoffs, that would be huge. Right now, 5 points back of the Saginaw Spirit for that final playoff spot. So we'll see what the Erie Otters can do. But yes, I saw Trevino, the new captain of the Erie Otters. Craig, you do an amazing job, by the way. Love to know your thoughts on teams who bring in a few studs and throw off chemistry, i.e. lines, ice time, special teams. I think Rangers, 99ers might have this. Yeah, that's the thing with the trades, because you get kind of caught up because you're like, well, we want to get this first round pick or this prospect of this National Hockey League team. And for some teams, it works. It clicks. We saw that with London, picking up a couple of key players in their runs these last two seasons. But if you notice the Knights, they didn't go too crazy with their pickups. They saw a spot that they needed to address and they went for it. And we have seen in the past where teams maybe trade a little too much. When I was covering the Sudbury Wolves, there was a year they went and they picked up Radek Faksa. There was now I can't think of all their names. There's Trevor Carrick, I think was another guy. That was the year they also brought in Frankie Palazzes. And for that Sudbury team, they were at the top of the Eastern Conference standings, and it looked like they were going to go on a deep run. But then the chemistry just was thrown off, and they ended up finishing fifth in the conference that season. Played Barrie in the first round and were knocked out in 5 games. So there is that possibility where maybe you trade too much and you disrupt the chemistry, and then your team kind of fumbles your way into the postseason. So it's yeah, that is a concern, and then that's why for Brantford they've picked up so many guys. It's good to see that they've picked up guys that have chemistry with each other, Luchenko and Paquette. But how is it all going to work? Because these guys are used to playing top line minutes. How's it going to look on your power play? Are players going to be upset that they're not going to have that power play time, that top line minutes? So it is. You have to be careful when you are adding, and then you want to make sure you get the chemistry, and that's where the coaching systems and the coaching staff they have such an important job here. Like UC Ahokas bringing in Woolley and O'Reilly. How's that going to? How is he going to be able to fit them into his style and his system? So that's where there's a lot of work. So the next couple of weeks, you're probably going to see some growing pains with teams. Look at Ottawa last night losing to the North Bay Battalion on the road. Is that the growing pains because they brought in some new pieces? They have to get used to the systems of Dave Cameron. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. And there are examples of teams doing too many trades and kind of disrupting just what they had when they were going into the trade deadline. Josh McCann, Matt Minchak has an NCAA commitment for next season. Surprised Kingston didn't move him. And yeah, for Minchak, he's been sensational for the Kingston Frontenacs. His numbers top notch. There is that chance, that he comes back next season. I think Kingston's going to be a pretty good team next year. I think they could be one of those teams that challenges for the top half. I'm surprised they didn't move Malik McGowan. I think they would have been able to get some really good pieces for McGowan before the OA trade deadline. But yeah, Minchak, I think there would have been some demand there for him. There is that possibility, I guess, but Kingston's focused on making the playoffs this year, and they want to be a contender, or not a contender, but they want to make the playoffs and give that young core some important experience here at the OHL trade deadline, or for the second half of the playoffs. Wild Skaterboard just saw on X the Walton trade is done and should be out in about 20 minutes. It sounds like we're waiting for muffins or baking. But yeah, it sounds like we should be getting that trade soon. It's just maybe it's just going through the fine details here with it. Just trying to get everything figured out. Who's going to be going where? How's this trade going to look? But I think that Walton trade is what we're waiting for, and that's why it has been slow this morning. We'll have to wait and see what those details are. But it sounds like it should be the Peterborough Petes, but we don't have that confirmation as of yet. Carter Whitehead just joined the chat. Do you think Barrie is done at the deadline? They are, my understanding is they're still looking to add a piece, but it's not like they have to. It's kind of just seeing what the market is like for certain players. They probably would look to add somebody for depth up front, but we'll see if the Barrie Colts can get a trade done here, as we're now approaching 47 minutes away from the OHL trade deadline. So we're just waiting to see if we're going to get any moves. We've had only one official trade up to this point here on trade deadline day, and that was for Sudbury and Kingston to swap draft picks. So we'll wait and see. We're still waiting for confirmation on the Walton trade. So if it is in 20 minutes, if that's what they're saying on X, depending on who is saying it, then hopefully we'll get a trade soon. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm just going through different places trying to see if we got anything here. But yeah, we're from what we've seen, I think we're just waiting. It's just the patience game. Gotta have our patience. User JB, are you going to Kingston to cover the draft this year? I would like to. I haven't for sure made any confirmations about that. The other thing too is, see, I've got a wife and kids, and I know going on the road has been challenging at times for them. So we'll have to wait and see if my wife would be happy with me covering the draft in Kingston. I would like to. if we can make it work. I know there's been some chatter about maybe going to Kingston for the draft. I think it's fantastic that we're going back to an in-person draft. We haven't had one since 2000. So if we can make it work, maybe we'll uh, do a live stream maybe from the draft. If we don't go to Kingston, maybe we can do a live stream here to cover the draft. That's one thing I haven't done yet. I haven't done a live stream when it comes to the OHL draft, but maybe this year we'll go to Kingston and we'll cover it in person. So yeah, I think it's awesome that Kingston's going to be the host. I think what the OHL has been doing of late with these different events, with the Connor McDavid prospects game being in Brantford last year. This year it's going to be in Peterborough. You got the draft. It's going to be in Kingston. It's nice to see the league branching out and doing events in different venues and having different fan bases having a chance to be a part of different events. I think it's a great move by the Ontario Hockey League. And it's going to be a ton of fun. Kingston is a great place. I love going to Kingston. Gino's, their pizza there, fantastic. I know the last couple times we've been there, we've stopped at Gino's after for a slice. So if you've never been to Kingston, there's my shout out to Gino's. If they want to sponsor the channel, the broadcast, send me an email. Or if you own a business and you want to be a sponsor of our broadcasts or the live stream, send me an email and maybe we can work something out. But yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But right now, we are 44 minutes away from the OHL trade deadline. We're still waiting for the Kieran Walton trade. But yeah, it's been so much fun having everybody here. So we're going to continue along here. We're going to go right until 12 o'clock. We'll go past 12. So maybe we've got an hour left here in the live stream. So if you have any questions or if there's anything you guys want to chat about, put that in the chat. We can fill some time. And then once we do have confirmed trades, we will discuss and we'll break it down and how it impacts those teams. It sounds like Kieran Walton will be on the move. It's just, will it be Peterborough? Will it be Ottawa? Or will it be a left field team? Could it be the Sioux Greyhounds? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, we are waiting for that trade. The deadline is coming up quick. And yeah, I'm going to take a quick break, get some more water, freshen up. So if you want to have a coffee, get a snack. I know lunchtime's around the corner. Maybe get a pizza pocket or something. But we'll take a little bit of a break and we'll continue with the OHL trade deadline. And hopefully we'll have something to discuss here on the channel. So we are, well, just over 30 minutes away from the OHL trade deadline of 2026. Still waiting for a couple of moves to come in, but yeah, it's all quiet. Still waiting for a few moves to come in. We're still waiting for Kieran Walton. That's the big move. The next conversation does become, well, what if he doesn't move? Is that a loss for the Sudbury Wolves, or is that going to help this team in the second half as they want to make the playoffs? Looks like they should make the playoffs just with the way things have been playing out of late. But Kieran Walton, if he is moved, is that a win for whoever picks him up, or if he stays with the Sudbury Wolves, what does that mean for them going forward? So those are going to be the big questions going forward. But still, just one trade to report this morning, and that was the Sudbury Wolves and the Kingston Frontenacs exchanging draft picks. No players have been moved, as we're 37 minutes away from the 12 o'clock deadline. There is that possibility that trades come in late, and then we'll find out about them after 12 o'clock. Sometimes that does happen as they send in the trades to league offices, but we're still just waiting to see what happens here from the OHL trade deadline. This deadline has been even quieter than what we had last year. I think it was about 11 o'clock that we had our first trade, and then we had a few moves near the end. Last year, we were waiting for Henry Muse. That was the big trade from Ottawa to Sudbury a year ago, but this year now we're waiting for Sudbury to move Kieran Walton. But I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in to the chat so far. It's been great just having the conversations, talking junior hockey, and we'll see if we have some trades to talk about here in the next few minutes or so. But we're going to go back to the chat, and we see that Marie is asking, "Hi, Mike. Which three teams do you believe have become the most competitive, dangerous following the trades to date?" If I had to pick three teams, I'm going to say that the Kitchener Rangers, they have stepped up. I really like the additions of O'Reilly and Woolley. The size that they bring, I think Kitchener is probably one of those three teams. The Windsor Spitfires, my oh my, picking up Villeneuve is one thing. He's kind of like a Tom Wilson type. So he's physical, but he can still score. So I think that's a win for Windsor. They're going to be stronger. Alex Ferran, he scores in bunches, but still he's a pretty good player up front. And then Jakob Fibiger. I think that's a huge pickup from the Brampton Steelheads. So Kitchener and Windsor would probably be the two teams that I would say have improved quite significantly. And the third, I do like what the Ottawa 67s have done. I do like that they've picked up Nick Sema. He's that veteran presence. He's got that championship pedigree. I think that's going to help the Ottawa 67s. They've got a pretty young team. And then Bedkowski on the blue line. He's got that size. He can bring that leadership as well. So the three teams that I think have become more competitive would be Ottawa, Windsor, and Kitchener. Maybe not in that order, but those are the three I think have done pretty good. Wild Skaterboard, what is the biggest OHL trade I've ever seen? I do remember when John Tavares was traded from the Oshawa Generals to the London Knights. I remember that was a huge deal, for Tavares being the exceptional status player that he was. London was going all in. So I would say that's probably the biggest. And, for London that season, didn't get the championship that they had hoped for by picking up John Tavares, but he was everything he was built to be when he played for the Oshawa Generals. And it was kind of surprising seeing Oshawa move him to the London Knights. That's why I was kind of wondering, would Saginaw do that last year with Michael Misa? Because I think that would have been a comparable move. But I would say maybe that's the biggest OHL trade that I've seen during my time. But right now we are still looking for a trade here today as we just do some more refreshing. Teams right now just preparing for tonight's action. Yeah, still pretty quiet. We're waiting for some moves to come in here, but we'll keep going with the conversations. We're now down to 33 minutes until the OHL trade deadline for 2026. Candy, chemistry, heard Testa wants out of Brantford, and both McNeil and Lamb want out of Rangers. P.S. Who's your underdog come playoffs? The chemistry is going to be the interesting part, and you will get players who will be upset to see their playing time reduced. We'll see how that all pans out. I haven't heard that about Testa or McNeil and Lamb. there has been some speculation that teams have been interested in McNeil, especially now that Woolley's been brought into the Kitchener Rangers. But we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front if they're in fact moved. But yeah, chemistry is a big thing at the trade deadline. You see it at the National Hockey League level as well. But then that is factoring in, salary caps and whatnot. But here in the OHL, it's more so about, yeah, the chemistry and how are players going to react. Because remember, these are teenagers. So there's a lot of factors here when you make some of these big moves. And my underdog come playoff time, I really do like the North Bay Battalion, that group. I feel as though with Ryan Ullahan and company, uh, they can really get that team. If they get them buying in, you look at the likes of Wellenreiter, you look at Ryder Carey and Ryder Cali, Vaughn, Moses. They got a good, team up front. And then you've got Mike McIver in net, who I think may be one of the more underrated goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. I would say North Bay has that possibility of being an underdog come playoff time. Chris Stefani, do you do you think Pete's are done? Doing a great job, Mike. Well, thank you, Chris, for tuning in. Right now, we're waiting to see if, in fact, the Peterborough Petes are going to acquire Kieran Walton. That is kind of what we're waiting for. It's the news broke yesterday that the Peterborough Petes entered the chat when it came to Kieran Walton. It surprised many, and then there was the speculation of who would be going the other way. But I think we're kind of waiting to see if, in fact, the Peterborough Petes will be that team that acquires Kieran Walton. But I don't think the Petes are done. If they're looking to acquire Walton, say that trade falls through, would Peterborough then pivot to another player? Not sure who that player would be, but I don't think the Petes are done. They're going to be a team to watch as we're now 31 minutes away from the trade deadline. Greg says, based on your picks for top three improved teams, February 14th will be a good game as Kitchener will be visiting Ottawa. That will be a great matchup, the Rangers and 67s. Those are going to be two of the top teams, I think, in the OHL. Brantford, of course. I didn't say Brantford because I feel like they're already a really good team. They just built up their depth. But yeah, that Kitchener-Ottawa matchup should be fantastic. And it's on February 14th, so that's Valentine's Day. So that's a great time for those two teams to battle it out. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what comes next. And two, the Kitchener Rangers are going to be honoring a legend in their team at the Odd tonight. They've introduced that Legends Row. So Pete DeBoer was the first to go into the Legends Row. And next, they're going to be doing Brian Bellows. And I grew up going to Kitchener Ranger games, and everyone kept talking about Brian Bellows. He was a part of that first team to win a Memorial Cup for the Kitchener Rangers. So it's going to be really cool to see Bellows being honored at the Legends Row at the Odd tonight. That's going to be a great atmosphere as the Kitchener Rangers play tonight. But yeah, shout out there to Brian Bellows. And if you're going to the Rangers game tonight, that should be a fantastic game. So Brian Bellows night at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. So we are now down to just 29 minutes. I forget I should have marked down the time when that comment was made that people on X were saying that Kieran Walton trade was going to come through in 20 minutes time. That was probably about 20 minutes ago, but we're still waiting for something to come about. But it's been all quiet. So we'll see. Even for Niagara, they've been surprisingly quiet. We haven't heard anything from the Ice Dogs today, but it is what it is. Every trade deadline is a little bit different, and this year it seems like it could go down to the wire. Maybe in the next 28 minutes we're going to get a flood of trades, but we'll have to wait. And Wild Skateboarder said it was at 11:10, so thank you for that. So it's been 20 minutes, so we should be getting something, right? Spencer says it's going to be a good night in Kitchener. Bump this up a little bit so I can read it. Crispin says, seems like Owen Sound is now building for the future. How many years based on these moves before they are a contender again, in your opinion? I'd probably say next year, the Owen Sound attack should be a decent team, but it all depends who's coming back. Pierce Bowie has the commitment for the NCAA, so if he comes back next year, if you're the Owen Sound attack, you have to build around him. You have to build around Bowie, Zarowski. You still have Bennett, Net, Kaprowski. So this team, as long as players return, the attack should be good. It's just who's coming back from the NCAA, and uh, they got a lot of picks in that Bedkowski deal. I like Julian Brown, that pickup from the London Knights. So I would think for the attack next year, fingers crossed that they can be competitive in that Midwest. What a start to this season. I was excited when I saw the Owen Sound attack were off to that hot start because the attack are a team that the fan support is incredible. That run in 2011 where they won the OHL championship, the stories of people lining the highway, so like Highway 10 and then Highway 6, just to celebrate the fact the Owen Sound attack won that championship. The passion there is just something else. And I thought this year would have been a great year for them. It's just too bad that they started to stumble, the injuries piling up, and then Carter George wanting out. It's unfortunate how the season is going right now for the Owen Sound attack. So I hope next year is the year, and hopefully players don't end up bailing like Pierce Bowie. But as long as he comes back, you get Cole Zarowski back, and then you draft well this year. You got Max Galil. He looks like he's going to be the real deal. I would say that next year the attack should. I think if you're the attack, you got to go in next year, or else you're looking at a few years' time until the Owen Sound attack are going to be a competitive team again in the Ontario Hockey League. Uh, Tour Wente? I think I said your name right. Thoughts on Steelheads making moves for future? I think the Brampton Steelheads have done a great job with their moves. Uh, it's just the whole situation that happened last year was tough because you lose Martone, you lose Ivan Kovic, you lose Misa for nothing because they go off to the NCAA, which would have been great players for this year to trade away because think of the assets they would have gotten for those players coming up to this OHL trade deadline, or Brampton would have been one of the teams maybe contending in the Central. But with what they have, I think they did a great job. They got so many assets back for Gabe Sherratt from the Kitchener Rangers. I think James Richmond is doing a fantastic job with this team and the rebuild. I like the core that they have. Bringing in Amadovsky is going to be a big step for this team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but we see that a lot with teams. When there's no pressure on a team and then that chemistry just clicks, the Steelheads could be that team where in the second half, they start to string points together. They start to climb the standings a little bit. But I think for the Steelheads moving forward, I think they've done a pretty good job, and we'll see if that chemistry can click this season. It'll be fascinating to see what they can do as a spoiler. But next year and then the year after, I think we'll really start to see the benefits from this year's trades. Wild Skateboarder saying a very reliable source on X said it's a done deal, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to say any confirmations as of yet, just waiting until we see that we have trades. Oh, we may have something here. Let's do this. I have a graphic. I made a graphic for this. So, are you ready? We got a trade, and this time it's between the Brantford Bulldogs and the Ottawa 67s. Abe Barnett has been traded for a third-round pick in 2026. So there we go. We've got a trade to report. It's the 67s and the Brantford Bulldogs. Barnett right now playing for the U.S. National Development Team program. He's a Michigan commit defenseman. So he's going off to the 67s. So there we go. We got a trade. So it's not the big trade we're waiting for, but at least we got a trade. So that's two trades now this morning that we can confirm. So defenseman there going to the Brantford Bulldogs, Abe Barnett, and we'll see how this plays out for him. I think he's probably in their future plans, being a 2008 born, so we won't likely see him for this run, but for Abe Barnett, a piece for next season. And this comes after Spencer Hyman said that he was done trading. But see, anything can happen. What do you think of North Bay? That's from Benjamin. I really like the North Bay Battalion. I think they could be a dark horse here in the second half. Gervais and Barch coming over from the Saginaw Spirit. great pickups. I think they did a great job with that. They've got a young group already as it is, and Mike McIver, underrated goaltender. I think the North Bay Battalion. I don't think they're going to catch Barrie in the Central Division standings right now, 8 points back. But I do like the looks of this team, and I think North Bay should be considered a serious contender even for next season. Kyle, do you think Barrie's done now, or do you think one late move? I think Barry's probably going to work the phones right up until the trade deadline. Marty Williamson is that type of GM that's no, he's gonna look at all his options and see what comes about. But I think the Barry Colts, if they are going to add, I think that they'd probably be a forward. Brandon Sooney, Kyle, why don't you just ask Marty at the rink? Well, there's a great question. He could be our inside scoop. Um, 220. If I were the Steelheads GM junior, he should really try and draft the bulk of the U16 Credit River team. Hey, that'd be a fascinating move there. I think for the Steelheads, James Richmond, he's the last GM head coach combination. I think that's it's such a hard job to do nowadays because there's the American hockey factor. But we'll see what they can do. But yeah, I think Richmond, he's doing a great job right now with the Steelheads. Right now, I'm just refreshing feeds, just trying to see because now we're down to 21 minutes until the OHL trade deadline. We got two trades so far. As the Ottawa 67s and Brantford Bulldogs making a trade. So the playing rights to Abe Barnett go to the Brantford Bulldogs for a third round pick in 2026. So I think that's I don't know too much about Abe Barnett, so I'm just going to be honest with you on that front. I'd have to do some research, but he's a defenseman, and I think this is just a future move for the Brantford Bulldogs. But we'll see. Maybe that third round pick is something that Ottawa needs for another move. So keep an eye on that third round pick from 2026. If the 67s make a move, will that be a piece that helps them get over the edge? So that's always something to watch for, especially with some of these moves, is when they get some picks, will they then be flipped in another trade? Because I think Ottawa, if we haven't gotten the confirmation yet on the trade for Kieran Walton, I think it's between Ottawa and Peterborough from the sounds of it. Ottawa got a lot of picks in that Amidovsky trade from the Brampton Steelheads, and now you got another third here from Brantford. I'm only speculating. I don't know for sure, but could that be something in the Kieran Walton front? We'll have to wait and see. Nick, we got dial up here in Sudbury. It's just slow. You know what? I used to cover the Sudbury Wolves, and they play in that old barn. Maybe the Wi-Fi is a little off. It could even be that. Blaker, 67s also hold rights to Abe's brother Asher, who's an Edmonton draft pick. Okay. See, I'm going to be honest. I'm not too familiar with Barnett, but still. No escape. I assume Barnett wasn't interested in Ottawa. That could be a factor. Maybe Barnett wants to, maybe sees a benefit playing for the Bulldogs. I don't think they would bring him up. He'll probably stay with the U.S. National Development Program because that Bulldogs team already very, very deep. Benjamin, do you think North Bay will get one more OA? The OA trade deadline was yesterday, so the OAs are settled. So I know North Bay has that one vacant spot, so that's what they're going to go with. So it's so no more overage trades at this point. Devin, as a Wolves fan last year, we kept Musty for no reason instead of building for the future. I'll be very unimpressed if they can't get Walton out of town for something. And I know that's been a complaint with the Sudbury Wolves. Because remember last year, they traded Jackson to Ottawa for Henry Muse, and then Muse went off to Michigan. So last year was a year that it was seen as that should have been a sell season for the Sudbury Wolves. They did great in the Ferrand and Villeneuve trade to Windsor, getting those picks in return. But it's going to be interesting. If they don't trade Kieran Walton, that could be seen as a missed opportunity if you're the Sudbury Wolves. But we're coming down to the wire, waiting to see if we get any more trades here. But time will tell. And I think I think if you're the Sudbury Wolves and you miss out on trading Walton, you have to do a deep look now at management, because things have been kind of mismanaged these last few years, or at least that's how it feels with the Musty situation. And then you bring in Muse, who then leaves, and now you've got Kieran Walton because we're coming down to the wire. We're now down to the last 17 minutes. Wild Skateboard Barnett was a 2024 ninth round pick by Ottawa. So probably because he's American, so playing with the U.S. program, it was a late pick. So you're probably going to see that more often too, where teams take a shot with their scouting department, and it could be Barnett. Just didn't fit their plans with Ottawa, or he wasn't interested in playing. So we'll see how that all plays out. Devin, 2 years ago was our year. It's not our year for a while now, sadly, and yeah, it's tough because Sudbury and Sarnia, Kingston, those are the three organizations in the OHL where it's like you want to see them have some success because those are three of the more established organizations that have been just hard pressed on their luck, not having deep playoff runs. Sarnia, one trip to the Western Conference Final a few years ago. Sudbury went to the OHL Championship 2007. That was a Cinderella run where they lost to Plymouth. And then Kingston have yet to make it to an OHL final. So it'd be nice to see Sudbury build a winner because the fans are there. Like, that's the thing. Sudbury fans are so passionate. I loved my time when I covered the Sudbury Wolves because the fans, they were into it. They know everything that's going on with that team. It's just so unfortunate they haven't had a winner yet. And it all comes down to the drafting, the trades. You got to get that cycle right. And I feel as though if Walton doesn't move today, it's could be a bit of a swing and a miss here for the Sudbury Wolves. Nick says, any truth to McGregor refusing to come to Sudbury? It's a possibility. I'm still surprised that came out that McGregor was maybe the player going back. We don't know for sure. It could be no trade clauses that are preventing that trade from being confirmed. We've been waiting all morning for a trade to come through with Kieran Walton. If it is in fact McGregor that was going the other way, that'd be a huge win for the Sudbury Wolves and a big miss for Peterborough if they gave up McGregor for Walton, because I don't know if Walton's just, I don't think he's that one piece that's going to make you suddenly the top contender in an Eastern Conference that has a Brantford Bulldogs team that's heavily loaded. So it's possible, but not that I've heard of yet. Carter says, did Barry drop Asadorian from what I've heard because of the OA rules? Yes. So what happened is that Zabeski came in as the OA from the Brampton Steelheads. Marty Williamson tried to find another place for Asadorian to play in the Ontario Hockey League, was not able to reach any trade agreements. So what's happened is Asadorian is now, he was released, but it sounds as though he has joined the Chicago Steel of the USHL, or at least that's what I've been told. So yeah, because of the OA rule, Asadorian was the odd man out. We are now down to 14 minutes. We are in that closing stages of this OHL trade deadline. Oh, here we go. We got it. We've got the confirmation. We've been waiting for it. Here we go. So the Sudbury Wolves have traded Kieran Walton and Flint's seventh round pick in 2027 to the Peterborough Petes. Going the other way is Jen Eula, and then 5 draft picks. So the Wolves are going to get a second in 2029. They've got 3 thirds, 2026, 2027, 2029, and then a 5th in 2027. So the Sudbury Wolves have traded Kieran Walton to the Peterborough Petes. So that's huge. So I'm surprised it's the Peterborough Petes, in all honesty, because for Peterborough, they're 4th right now in the Eastern Conference standings. If we look at the way the standings are, the Peterborough Petes, they are 10 points behind the Brantford Bulldogs, who currently sit 3rd. 12 points back of Ottawa for 1st in the Eastern Conference standings. But for Peterborough, they're going all in. So we now have four buyers in the Eastern Conference. This is a huge trade that has just been confirmed. It took a little bit to get going. Eula is the player coming back as we're it's now posted on the OHL uh, website. So Kieran Walton, now a member of the Peterborough Petes. So huge trade here. It was Peterborough was the late addition to the conversation as to who is going to be picking up Kieran Walton. It looked like it was Ottawa, Barrie, or Windsor. Barrie pivoted. They picked up Ben Wilmot from London, and Peterborough swoops in. It took a while, but the Peterborough Petes, they have now picked up Kieran Walton. So the trade is now official. We've been waiting all morning for this trade to come in. What a what a trade here. So uh Ula, let's look at his stats. I'm gonna bring it up here because hopefully I can get this to come up. But for Ula, he is a defenseman. He joins his brother with the Sudbury Wolves, 6'1", 205 pounds, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points in 38 games. So not a lot of points this season. Kind of a stay-at-home defenseman. So Jensi Ula off to the Sudbury Wolves for Kieran Walton. So there is the trade we've been waiting for. It comes with 11 minutes left in the OHL trade deadline. So let's see what teams can do with with this. So what a huge trade here. So Kieran Walton. I did not think it was actually going to happen. I thought it'd be Ottawa. So do the 67s now add? So they've got some time to work with here. We're down to the wire. But man, oh man, I am surprised. So let's go back to the conversation here. So we've got Nick saying, flip those 29s and load up with the new arena. I like the trade. So that's the thing. You've got a brand new arena now coming up in Sudbury. And, if you are going to get some extra excitement in the community, you've got the arena. Have a good team that year because the arena is going to open in 2028. So 28-29 is going to be that season. But then the 2030 Memorial Cup is in the OHL the following year. So we already know Brantford wants to put in a bid. We know Ottawa wants to put in a bid. Does Sudbury put in a bid? And then with this trade here, and then of course the trade with Windsor, if they manage their assets right, and I know we were talking just a moment ago how it seems like that's been an issue with the Sudbury Wolves of late. If they can plan it right, that opening year, have a strong team, and then put in a bid for the Memorial Cup in 2030. I think I wonder if that's in their game plans. We'll have to wait and see. But Kieran Walton to the Peterborough Petes, who saw that coming? JBA, maybe Pete's second half schedule is lighter and they feel good going into it. That is a possibility because this Peterborough Petes team, playing in the East, seeing that, some other teams have sold off. I'm just going to pull up their schedule here quickly if that will work. But yeah, that could be a factor for the Petes. Let's see if I can get that. Ever since they updated the site, it's been hard to use. But anyways, that could be a factor. The Eastern Conference just got really fascinating with that trade. So Kieran Walton off to the Peterborough Petes for Eula, and then 5 draft picks. That's a bold move by the Peterborough Petes, especially when you've got Ottawa, Brantford, and Barrie all adding. So look out for the maroon and white. Dave Post, Eula has already said he is going to college next year. So that is, if that is the fact, we'll have to wait and see. But man, what a trade. Nick says, Ula absolutely destroyed Musty on a hit last year. Already our fave. Yeah, he's got that physical side. He's that shutdown defenseman. So we'll see how this all plays out. Devin, the arena situation is such a mess. City wants it downtown. No one who lives here does. Zolich wants to build one, blah, blah. This city can't do anything right. Well, they've got the shovels in the ground now. It's going to be built across the street from the arena across Minto. I'm curious to see how this all works out. They already bought all the land there. They've torn down all the buildings. I love going to Wacky Wing across the way there, but that's been torn down. So they shovels are in the ground. The city of Sudbury right now in the process of building that new event center and arena. It's going to be different. Not seeing the Wolves play at the community arena, but uh, they are in the process. They are building that arena. It's construction is underway. So Nick says Ula goes the year after. So okay, yeah, so he might be doing that. Brandon Thompson, do you think the Colts are going to make a trade now? I don't think they were in on Kieran Walton. I think once they made that Ben Wilmot trade, that was their decision to look in a different direction from Kieran Walton. They were involved in the talks yesterday up until they made that trade with the London Knights. There is still that possibility that the Colts add. We are running low on time. We're now down to 7 minutes left in the OHL trade deadline. I feel as though this is the domino that's going to start some moves. So if teams have been waiting to see what happens here, now that they can pivot, they've probably had their conversations of, if this happens, we want to do this or such and such. So we'll wait and see. We're just waiting for trades to be announced. But the Barrie Colts, they were willing to have conversations right up until the deadline. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that front. Nick says Wackies is moving to the old brewery on Lorne. Oh, I did hear about that, but it was so close to the arena. Like when I lived in Sudbury and covered the Wolves games, we would a lot of times go to Wacky Wing before the game and then just park and walk across the street. But I'm glad Wackies is coming back because that was a favorite of mine when I used to live up in Sudbury. That was now over 10 years ago. Time flies. But right now, just waiting for any other moves to come in. 6 minutes to go until the OHL trade deadline has been complete. And we'll have to wait and see. I'm not seeing any moves right now. We'll have to wait and see if what teams are doing to pivot. But 5 minutes remaining. It took us a while, but we got there. 3 trades. Not too bad. It just took a while for that Kieran Walton deal to come through. Greg, keep your eye on February 16th and March 13th as 67s will be playing the Colts. Side note to Sudbury, I hope they still have the wandering taxidermy wolf in the new arena. That's gotta carry over, right? That's everyone talks about the taxidermied wolf. It's a classic. I know there's some fans who, would like to see Sudbury move away from it, but you have to have the wolf. When we went up to Sudbury back in November, I had people messaging me asking, do they still have the wolf? Does the wolf still go across the ice? And these are people who live in Southern Ontario, so they've heard the stories about the wolf, but haven't seen it. But it's a legend when it comes to junior hockey circles. So yes, hopefully that wolf's carrying over. I'll have to talk to my buddy Brian Cooper to see if it's been confirmed, if it's going to carry over. If we remove the wolf, we riot. See, but that's just it. It's a staple. It's a pair. It's you have those Canadian heritage moments. It's like the Sudbury heritage moment. You have to have that wolf. So I get it. I would understand Wolves fans if they were to riot. But I'm curious how Wolves fans feel about this trade because now Kieran Walton has moved. He's now a member of the Peterborough Petes. Even how are Pete's fans feeling right now? I'm curious about what Peterborough fans are thinking right now because he did. I think when I heard McGregor was possibly going to Sudbury yesterday, I was scratching my head because I couldn't understand why Peterborough would move McGregor, but seeing them move Ula here today, it makes a little bit more sense. I'm still not sold if this is, the right way to go, considering you've got Brantford and Ottawa ahead of you in the division standings. But obviously, Mike Oak and the management there, they see something. And like it was mentioned in the chat, maybe they have a lighter schedule in the second half and they see a lane to challenge. But the Peterborough Petes, the big surprise here today. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now in the second half as we're down to the final 3 minutes of the OHL trade deadline. We've had our big trade in the last 15 minutes. And man, what a way to finish. Devin, at the beginning of last year, the Wolves' cable wasn't tensioned right, I guess. And when we scored, its paws would hit the top of the netting and the fur fell down. Yeah, it's well, there's even the story where it crashed into the media box because that wire, it goes across the ice towards the visiting bench and then it connects to the press box. And there was a situation where the wolf didn't stop and it crashed right into the Eastlink box where they call the games. So that wolf has been around and it's had its moments. Um, Nick says that our fans hate tanking; they're all mad. It's, but I think that's where I understand it because for Sudbury, they just want a winner. They want a winner to rally around. But if they can manage this right, hopefully next year they're ready to take that next step. Because I think for if Sudbury could get a run, 2007, I've heard stories about how loud that barn got, how passionate everyone was. It would be nice to see that, even if that could happen one more time before the old barn shuts down. Chadwick Barry, Scott Barney was a Pete first rounder. Well, there you go. Yes, because the connection there between Peterborough and Sudbury with Scott Barney, he has done a fantastic job, I might add, with the coaching staff for the Sudbury Wolves. Kind of brought stability. I felt like that was maybe a bit of a weak link at one point for Sudbury was the systems and the coaching style. Barney has done a fantastic job after being with the Humboldt Broncos and then coming over to the OHL. He has done a fantastic job with that team. So we are now down to the final minute of the OHL trade deadline, waiting to see if we get any last second trades. I'm wondering if that's going to be it, if it's just going to be the Kieran Walton move. But we are approaching the deadline, but we'll have to wait and see. Yes, the diehards want the tank, though. Owen Leonard is an elite goalie and a future for us, too. I do think the future is bright, and it is hard for Wolves fans seeing the trading away players like this, but it's a part of the junior hockey cycle, and Owen Leonard has a lot of potential, and hopefully he's able to meet that potential for the Sudbury Wolves going forward. But we are now at 12 o'clock, so officially we've reached the OHL trade deadline. So what that means is uh, if there's been any trades that were submitted before 12 o'clock, we will hear them after 12. So there is the possibility that a trade or two could trickle in over the next few minutes. So we'll keep the live stream going for a little bit here. But uh, man, it took us a while to get some trades, but the Sudbury Wolves did it. They sent Kieran Walton to the Peterborough Petes. A bit of a surprise there. I was not expecting Peterborough to be the team to pick up Kieran Walton. He wasn't even uh, on my Peterborough wasn't even on the radar for me. As people I was talking to were saying, Ottawa, Barrie, Windsor, but good for the Petes. If they feel as though Kieran Walton is going to be that piece that gets them over the edge, they did pick up Brett Hammond and Fraser, two big bodies there from the Erie Otters. We'll see if that's enough to be a team that could make some noise in the Eastern Conference. Easton Rye has been outstanding for Peterborough this season. My only concern is if Easton Rye gets injured, what are you like? I think it's Johnson. Is he the backup goaltender for the Peterborough Petes? Like, is he ready to take over that crease? Because now you can't trade goaltenders because now that we're past the trade deadline, unless there's another move coming um, from the Peterborough Petes that came in late. But you've got Easton Rye, who's been heavily played. You've got Dylan Lee Stack and then Mason Johnston. And for Lee Stack and Johnston, they haven't been playing a lot this season. So that could be, but then again, look at Jacob Oster with the Oshawa Generals the last 2 seasons. He played a ton of hockey. So the Petes, they're going to be interesting to follow. We'll see what happens. Now, Devin says, my buddy says Ula is committed NCAA 27-28. So if that's the case, then next year will be his last year in the Ontario Hockey League. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But still, what a trade before the end of the deadline there. And then, Nick, any chance Pete's did this to generate hope for a new arena? I don't know if that's a factor. I think for Peterborough, they've missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons. There's all the uncertainty with the NCAA, with players staying or going. The big question is with Adam Novotny, does he come back next year? So maybe with that uncertainty with players like Novotny, maybe they see an opportunity here, spur some excitement in the community. You have to play the games. You can't just hand the championship to the Brantford Bulldogs. You play the games. They're familiar with Brantford, so maybe they see an opportunity here where they know how the style is of the Bulldogs, and they feel like their style under under Rob Wilson, is that going to be enough to get this team to maybe upset a team like Brantford, Barrie, or Ottawa? So if they finish fourth and all four teams advance, then you're looking at Peterborough, Brantford, or Peterborough, Ottawa in the second round of the playoffs. So that's where do they think they have the team that could upset one of those two teams? And adding Kieran Walton, he's very offensively minded, top scorer in the Ontario Hockey League. Will that? How will he click with Novotny? If they can get some chemistry, there is that possibility that the Peterborough Petes, it could be. We'll see. I'm still surprised about the move, but time will tell as we're just waiting to see if any other trades trickle in. We're 4 minutes past the OHL trade deadline. We've only had 3 moves today, so we'll see what this does. Now, so let's break down the trades that happened. So it started off with Sudbury and Kingston exchanging draft picks. So the Sudbury Wolves picked up a 5th in 2028 from the Kingston Frontenacs for a 4th in 2027. And then we saw Abe Barnett traded to Brantford, his playing rights, for a 3rd in 2026. That went to Ottawa. And then the big trade, Kieran Walton and a 7th in 2026 going to the Peterborough Petes for Jensi Eula and then 5 draft picks, one of them being a 2nd, and then 3 thirds. So those are our trades. Not seeing anything else coming in. We'll have to wait and see. Because usually the OHL will also post saying this is it. All trades have been submitted. We don't see that as of yet, so there is still that possibility that we see a trade trickle through, but nothing at this point. So we'll keep the live stream going for about another 10 minutes. So we've got the chat going, so we'll keep the conversation running. So Blaker says, with Wolves not getting lots in return, could lead to a McGregor trade to Wolves in a few years. Well, the league doesn't like those trades where you say, we'll give you this now, but then the future give us player B. But we'll see. That could be a possibility. And then Greg, thank you very much, Mike, for holding this live stream podcast. Thoroughly enjoyed it. See you next time when you arrive in Ottawa. Well, Greg, thank you for tuning in. It's the Family Day weekend when the Barrie Colts are in Ottawa, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be on the Monday. So we'll see you up at TD Place Arena in a couple months or next month. And then Chadwick Barrie, the Petes moved 3 players with 2008 birthdays, Fitzgerald, Gowan, and Eula. They usually push for a title on a 3-year cycle. The 2009 birthdays must be the year they're focusing on. So it's been a while since they last made the playoffs. Last time they were in the postseason was when they had that championship run. So if they're wanting to do the 3-year cycle, then I guess that's maybe what they're going for. But I'm still leery about it. I don't know because if you look at the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, now that we've seen all these moves, I don't think I would put Peterborough ahead of Brantford or Barrie. For Ottawa, I like their moves with Sima and Bedkowski. So defensively, I favor Ottawa. Offensively, I guess you could favor Peterborough. But I still say Peterborough or Brantford is still the favorite after all these moves. But I'm good for Peterborough though. That's the thing. Sometimes we go into these trade deadlines and we already know, okay, this team's gonna buy, this team's a sell, they're a buy, and then everything just goes according to plan. There's no surprises. But I do kind of like the fact that the Petes are willing to take this risk. They see a player that wasn't moving to one of the top teams. they come in here with a package that the Wolves are happy with, and they get the trade done. So I think that's good for Peterborough. If it works out, Mike Oak could be the GM of the year, and yeah, I think it's pretty bold, and good for the Peterborough Petes taking that risk. But right now, that is the biggest trade of the day. Still waiting to see if anything trickles in. Um, and now we've got confirmation. The OHL is saying the trade deadline is passed and all transactions have been processed. So today, 3 trades. So that is it. The rosters are set for the second half of the season. Now we can look forward to the playoffs and see where everything falls. Yeah, I know it took us a while to get the trade deadline to get some movement, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you very much for all your support. You guys are what makes this channel what it is. If it wasn't for you guys tuning in, we wouldn't be doing. I wouldn't be doing these videos or having these chats and interviews and whatnot. So thank you very much, and yeah, all the best as we get ready for the 2026 playoff push. Wild Skater, thank you for this great stream, Mike. Really appreciate you doing this, and I love the channel. Well, thank you very much for all your support. Thank you for participating in the chat. And then Chadwick, the Pete's posted the 2023 OHL title. 2026 is the 3rd year they should be competitive with. So we'll see what happens. I think good for Peterborough. I think this is going to be an interesting run, and they just made it all that more interesting. So I'm going to wrap up the chat here. Josh, thank you for tuning in. Cannot wait to see the second half. And I'll have to, maybe we'll get some polls going, see what everyone thinks about some of these trades. But thank you very much for everyone tuning in. I'm going to wrap up the live stream here as now I got to get ready to hit the road for Guelph tonight as we get ready for the broadcast between the Barrie Colts and the Guelph Storm. So the second half underway. That's it for the OHL trade deadline. 3 moves. Kieran Walton, now a member of the Peterborough Petes. And we will talk to you guys again soon.